Okay, this meeting to order at 6:33 on December the 8th, 2022. If you're all, oh no, I have to do roll call first, sorry. Mayor Pro Tem Villalobos.
Here.
Councilmember Bunker.
Here.
Councilmember Styler. Councilmember Styler.
That might have been him, Adrian, on the phone.
No, it's actually Ken.
Oh, it is Ken. Okay.
Councilmember McLeod.
Here.
Councilmember Clinton.
Here.
And I am Mayor Glaze. If you'd all join me for the
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America,
and
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then to the Texas flag, honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. And then for the invocation. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord. Thank you for this nice weather. And Lord God, thank you for the rain. Thank you for the beautiful Christmas celebration that we were able to have. And Lord God, we just praise you for your gift of salvation and for the gift of your Son at this time of the year. Lord God, we just pray for safe travel for all of those that are traveling this time of the year. And we just pray for your guidance in everything that we say and do tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, any public comments? Okay, Miss Harper? Yep.
Okay, two items. The first one is about the downtown tree lighting last Friday. I think it was a success. There were some things that need to be worked out. I want to thank the mayor and the city and all the folks involved in getting all the permits and the trash cans and the police. And I want to thank Chief Ward also for having his entire police force. And he closed the streets down. I was glad. Okay, I counted 196 people in Crook's store. Now, I got distracted. People were asking me questions. Anyway, that's what I counted. And I think there were probably more. We had 15 vendors, and there were 78 kids in the library, which is a lot of kids through there. They were watched a movie and had activities. This was a learning experience for me. It's the first time I'd done this. Many things went right. There was a few items that need to be corrected, need some improvements on that. I was in the library earlier and everybody in there said it was the first time that they had done anything like that. So, we all learned a lot. But I also appreciate the fraternity boys from Texas Tech, the Phi Gamma Delta Fiji fraternity, who came out and helped. They also had some sorority girls that helped. The other item is the AARP tax aid. This is going to start Tuesday, January 31st, and it's going to run through April 18th. She's going to have appointments that are going to start in mid-January. You have to call the library and set up an appointment. There's 12 sessions, 12 weeks. It only meets on Tuesday. So there's 12 sessions. There's 24 appointments each session. The hours are from 9 to 11 in the morning and 1 to 5 in the afternoon. And the Lockhart Library will be hosting, same thing, San Marcos also. Last year, Lockhart did not have the tax aid that they are this year. And Martindale picked up on all the Lockhart people in working their tax problems out. But anyway, appointments are going to start in January. And again, this is free. And you don't have to live in Martindale to get that done.
Was that 24 appointments per day, each Tuesday?
24 appointments each session, each Tuesday.
Oh, wow, that's a lot.
Or, well, they're working, let's see, 4 hours. They're working 6 hours.
Well, and something happened behind the scenes. I want to thank Ms. Villalobos. she said, don't we need a line? And so we went and got some, of the orange things to make a line. And that was very successful to have a line
Okay.
because, otherwise Santa would have been mobbed. So that was really a good call. on her
I was
part.
inside and I didn't really get to see much outside. When I did step outside, though, here's this line of kids, so I appreciate you
Yeah.
doing that. Thank you.
The other thing is, what I was grateful for the sorority and fraternity kids because they were lifting, they were helping the children get up and down safely, and they were a big help.
Yeah.
They were really.
That's one of, they were supposed to help with traffic and also help getting the kids up, and they were also helping us shuffle stuff around.
Okay, so we will go on to reports. The city administrator for code enforcement.
So if you all will take a moment to review Lee's report, I can help answer questions. Lee, our building official, code enforcer, put some P and Z notes at the very bottom if there's any special questions on that. I'd like to remind that city council that the property at there will be a public hearing on January 5th with Satoa Holdings.
Is that on the paper?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
bottom.
it's underneath.
Under planning and zoning, PZ 112790. That is upcoming.
Underneath it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That will be the next planning and zoning meeting.
Yeah.
I cannot be there for that meeting. I will be traveling for a hearing that I'll have in North Texas on the morning of January 6th.
Okay.
Oh, bummer.
But since it's a P and Z meeting, we can continue to have the meeting. Is that right, Kent?
If you need me to be there in person, I can. I will tap in remotely to that meeting, but I'm going to be out of town on January the 5th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And then we'll get information prior.
That's
Yeah.
right. Lee said he would like to have that packet ready for you guys a week before the meeting at the latest.
Okay. I have a question about the reports.
Sure.
What are yellow warning notices?
Yellow warning notices are, it's kind of like step one to correcting code violations. You'll put a yellow tag on a person's door
Oh,
and they have about 10 business days to coordinate themselves with the building official or code enforcer.
Adrian, I wanted to ask about PZ 121888, where it says Dream Subdivision modifications and then waiting. What does that mean?
So from the modifications made at the last P and Z meeting, I'll have to go back to my notes on that.
Gotcha. Okay. I know.
Hasn't,
He's working.
Yeah.
on that.
Lee's been working on that task designated to city staff.
they just haven't completed.
Yeah, that was the one I made a recommendation, modifications. I
Modification.
think he's supposed to get with the engineer Ramsey with the verbiage and all their work.
I believe so.
On the other Texas Historic, working on new classification for Black Cemetery.
I didn't
Oh,
know
Black
that.
Cemetery. Is that over on Fannin, or do you know anything about that?
Lee didn't brief me on this.
There
I
was
could,
an old cemetery there on Fannin.
I can
No,
follow up
this
with
is the
you
one over
on
there
that question.
To the big cemetery.
Oh, that was the dedication of the Creighton's Rule?
I mean, it would be
Those are
easy to
separate.
assume that, but we don't know that.
Mm.
We
Okay.
didn't ask him about that.
Okay.
He hasn't
No,
mentioned that. We'll follow up with you on that.
Okay, thank you.
If the council wants, we could send a
Or send him.
council-wide email.
Mhm,
Just ask him.
okay.
That would be nice to know.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I'll say something about what has been enforced. 2 homes have been torn down across from Allen Bates Park. One was done in a very quick matter. The other one, right on Fannin in 1979, they started and then they got a dumpster and completely put the rest of the house in the dumpster. So as you come around the turn on 1979, you'll see more open space there, and it looks much better. It looks great. I commend the enforcement, but I also commend the residents for doing that in such a timely manner. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
No, not for me.
Okay, then we'll move on to the police report. Chief, do you have?
Come on up,
anything to
Chief.
say?
Batter up.
Done.
Good evening. How y'all doing?
Good,
Good.
thank you.
So in November, we wrote 199 citations and presented those. 154 citations, 45 warnings. As you can see, a lot of those were for, as you see, the violations where I detail them all out of what they were for on the back. And I think the biggest one was for speeding still. 137 of those went for speeding.
What's your record? What's the high speed?
I don't know.
That's what you always wanted.
I'm just curious if you have 100 miles an hour. I was just kidding.
I know we got a 90, 98 or something like that.
Oh, really? Okay, that's all.
But, you know, some of the more important ones like child not in safety seats and so forth like that, those are very important. And running the red lights, got some of those. I'm going to send all of us to a stopping 18-wheelers training. So what to look for, we won't be DOT certified, but it'll tell us everything we look for when we stop them. There's a lot of things that go along with when you stop those big trucks, what you're supposed to look for and everything. So I'm sending all 3 of us to that training. And,
Oh, wow.
Here pretty quick. So getting that done.
So normally when you would pull someone over, you feel comfortable at doing that yourself, or do you have someone assist you?
What do you mean?
To pull over an 18-wheeler, is it just the procedural things that you need to work out, or is it?
Right, no, it's easy. Pulling over an 18-wheeler is the same as pulling over a car. You just be cautious and go up and make your contacts, and whatever violation is, you address that violation and send them on their way.
Mhm.
There are so many more things you can look at if you're DOT certified. But to get that, that's a lot. And I think it's a lot to put on our guys and so forth. So we're just gonna get this other training things to look for when they hand you the log. Look, can you see, I'll give you, for instance, I pulled over a guy in a truck, a big truck. I don't know, a week or 2 ago, can't remember when it was. At like 2:30 in the morning, and got a complaint because he was swerving all over the road. And pulled him over, and he was very, very tired. He'd been driving for 20 hours. So we're not DOT certified, so we can't shut him down. If I was a DOT officer, I could probably shut him down and make him park his truck. He was only going to Fentress, thank goodness. And I made him stand out, and it was cold. So he stood out, so I'm sure it kept him awake for the next 15 minutes to get home. So, you know, things like that. Those are some things we need to work on and make sure everybody's safe as the big trucks travel through.
How many officers are going to the training?
All the full-time officers, because it's during the day. Right. So myself,
Kevin and
Kevin and Rick.
How do you check in for alcohol? Do you just breath test? You say this guy's all over the road?
Well, you do the normal test for alcohol. If he gets out of the truck and smell alcohol, then you do your field sobriety test and so forth. He didn't have any of that. He didn't smell alcohol. He'd just been driving all day. He told me he came from South Texas and he got stopped at a bunch of checkpoints and traffic and so forth. And he'd just been tired. He was making his way home to Memphis.
On the guardrail at Quail Run on 80, it's been collided with several times. Is there a point in which we make a recommendation to TxDOT and say something needs to be done here, or this is the cause of this happening, or?
The TxDOT gets all the crash reports. I don't think they're going to reduce it to lower than 55 through there.
But turn lane, that's what it needs.
Well, I can tell you, Ed Barrio, our county commissioner, he gets a lot of reports about that, and he's been working on it. That's how come they got the flashing lights there, several months ago and stuff.
At Quail Run, most of those crashes are people just falling asleep at the wheel or going straight through it. Hitting that. That's what I've worked. People falling asleep at the wheel. I haven't, knock on wood, had anyone that's been intoxicated that hit that. It's everybody's been asleep late, early morning crashes there. If you notice, y'all go to sleep and it's there and come up in the morning, it's crashed. You know, and they'll call us out and we'll go work that crash.
So
And then-
who's, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, recently on Facebook, there was something about a dog on the highway, a dead dog, a German Shepherd.
Right.
And so I think we need to clarify that ourselves, I think within the city, to know if an animal is on the highway, you call TxDOT. Hopefully what is the procedure, so we know this now?
If there's an animal that's deceased.
Deceased animal.
Okay.
Yeah.
TxDOT may come out and pick it up, but by the time, we're gonna go out and drag it off the road into the ditch, just like we would a deer or anything else. We contacted the owner of that dog and asked him to come get it, and she refused. It was hard for her. I get it. So we removed it and put it on the side of the road, or into the bar ditch, so that it can't be seen. We're not gonna pick up a deceased animal, and transport it somewhere. We're just moving the problem from one place to another. If we just pull it off the side of the road, nature will take its course, and buzzards will get it and so forth.
It seemed to take a while though. I don't know why they didn't touch that dog for like a week. It just lay there and they didn't even.
Sometimes they do, sometimes they're quick in getting on it. I mean, it's just, so we'll try to get them to the bar ditch where no one can see them. Same, someone hit a deer the other night when I was out there, and I just he was a buck. I just drug him over to the bar ditch and he was gone pretty much in a couple of days.
I have seen a really improvement on keeping that grass mowed. Because I remember several years ago, Lynn McDonald, another guy, we actually did it ourselves. It was so hazardous that if you're in a small car, you could not get out. And a friend of mine actually had a collision there. So they're doing something better. They're keeping that grass down. So whatever,
I went through and sprayed that.
or something's happened, because it used to be a bad spot. That's it. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the financial report.
Okay, you see here the bank balances as of the 6th, just a few days ago. The balance of the accounts over at First Lockhart Bank totaled $159,513. You see the general fund, the top one there is up to $91,000. So the property tax revenue is starting to flow in. So that's good. And you see we've got money in the street and road fund. We've done a couple of projects this month with those funds, but I was commenting the other day, we don't spend nearly as much money on that, out of that fund now that Lockhart Street is fixed. But I think there's another step to that needs to happen though, so I'm sure that will get.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, okay. Then you go down to the tax pool, which is the kind of the investment accounts of the city. You see our emergency fund has $225 for a rainy day, so to speak. And then the Public Funds Investment Act account, you see the largest numbers in there are the grant funds. That's the ARPA grant. Is at 287,000, and the overflow from last year and prior years is at 132,000 in just operating funds that have accumulated. At the very bottom, you see the amount due the comptroller for the fines is down to 302,000. So that's our assets and liabilities. What's on the next page? This is the budget report for the general fund. You see, and this is for the month of October. We don't have November yet. You see $36,811 came in. And this far through the year, we're roughly 8% through the year in 1 month. So if you look at the line items over there on the side, you can kind of gauge that. The property tax revenue is just, had just started coming in October. I'm not even sure if they got the bills out in October. Maybe they did at some time that month. Go on down to expenses. Personnel, largest expense, 8.4%. That's right on plan through the first month. And one thing I noticed, see this payroll reimbursement from the utility, how it's at 12% of budget. That's because that lags a month behind, and there were 3 payrolls in September, so that's why that one appears to be larger than planned. That'll catch up with itself as the year goes on. Other operating expenses, looks like we've gotten off to a heavy start on office supplies, printing, insurance is billed quarterly, paid quarterly, software expenses. I mean, there are a lot of line items that are tracking ahead of plan just in the first month. So,
I thought like we had talked about the printing.
yeah, that's what these things are supposed to help. These,
That could be part of the cost, is the cost.
There's another printing. I was looking through the folder. We also do I'll see what that is in a minute. But in printing, it's also signed. So those zoning changes and whatnot are also printing expenses.
Okay.
yeah, we can look at the details of that. Any other questions on those expenses?
Yeah, notice our income is a little less than our expenses,
Yeah,
by about 2,000.
yeah, for the first month. Yeah, that will change drastically in the next few months.
Yeah, we got enough for the end of the year at least. right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so, okay, go on down, see which report is next.
A little bit too far.
What is this one? Is this this bottom section is, contractual services, attorneys, auditors, janitors, street repair. So you see we spent $11,000 in the month of October on those. In total, that section is, in line. So yeah, we spent a little more than we brought in October, but that's normal. Here we have bills that were outstanding at the time I made this report. We owed the postage meter people, the office supply people, the Tyler Technologies as the court software. And the last line is your fleet is fuel for the police cars. We run out of juice.
No, it appears every week this does an unauthorized reboot if it's not used, and I haven't touched this laptop. It spontaneously did it during the council meeting. Well, everybody can still hear us right now. There's no camera. Well, the camera is rolling, but I can't monitor what's going on in the Zoom room right now. So just give us a second. But if you want, you can continue.
This is the time at the City of Austin council meeting, someone would come out with a guitar and start singing.
Is that right?
They really do
Everything's
that.
still loud and clear out here for me.
Perfect.
Okay.
If you guys want
So
to
you keep
continue on the
going.
tablets.
Yeah, we could
Yes,
continue that.
that's fine.
Okay, well, I can't see what we're looking at,
Oh,
but
okay.
I assume the next report would be what?
The utilities.
The utilities. And
Oh, perfect. Yeah, it's on. Here you go, Dwayne. The audience have to bear with us. Oh, no, it's another bill.
okay, this next listing, the vendor balance detail, this just shows you who we received bills from and paid in the month of October. Nothing I think the biggest item that I noticed on there has to do with remitting the courts
It's
funds.
back up.
The risk pool quite a bit. Attorney fees.
Comptroller of Public Accounts is 19,000. That's the quarterly payment to the state for their portion of the traffic citations. Which other one did you notice?
This intergovernmental risk pool.
Yeah.
500.
Yeah, that's insurance,
Oh,
quarterly insurance.
So real quick, that 19 is going to the state.
Yes.
So how much was the total revenue?
where is that one?
It would have to look back into last year. That's from, that's July, August, and
Oh, okay.
September. That's remitted by the end of October. But the majority of the money goes to the state. It does.
Majority of the sales tax.
Some of the money we hold back. We get to, like that software bill that I mentioned earlier, that gets paid for out of the citation funds, but very little else. Most of it goes to the state. All right, come on down.
I had a question about, it is, with Reuben Brooks. How much does he get paid each time he comes in?
He gets paid $100 a week to clean the city hall.
Well, we don't, and he comes in how many times a week?
Just once a week.
Once a week.
He stops in twice usually, but he's only cleaning once. He stops in to say hello, but that's,
And then like for the $100, I mean, like how long does it take to clean?
yeah, I'm not usually here to see it, but,
Sometimes he'll come before a council meeting. So he'll come like right at 5 and then leave at 6, I guess an hour.
So it's about 100 an hour.
yeah,
And it used to be a little bit less, but then we included the police room to be cleaned, which raised it to 100.
It's the second bathroom.
Uh-huh. So then whenever it says right there, it's like 100, but then there's 200 and then there's,
yeah, sometimes he doesn't bill us for 2 weeks, he bills us 2 weeks at one time. Yeah. And it used to be even more than that, when he used to pick up the trash in the park too, but he doesn't do that anymore. Someone else does that. I forget what they're paid, $500 or $600 a month.
They're not picking up anything on Bates anymore.
No,
No.
yeah, it's
That's just during busy season.
during the garbage season. Yeah.
Still garbage.
Jeff doesn't.
Yeah.
Yes.
$17 a trip.
All right, let's,
All right, the next section is the utilities. Is there any other
Okay.
questions on the bills?
you could go up a little bit. You can see that last one, the Voyager. That's the gas. You can see how the gas prices are going down. Was $1,000 last month, $922 this month. Maybe that'll get more in line. Okay. Here's our utility fund, 27,468 brought in. We had expenses of nearly 35,000, so we ran a deficit the first month of $7,500. There was a good amount on that last line, 7090. Right at the first of the year, there was a good amount of mowing and stuff out at the wastewater plant. Tree removal, I'm trying to remember what else, but there was a lot of work that was done out there right at the first. So I assume that'll catch up with itself over time. So I'm sure if you scroll on down, you'll see that one's running a deficit $7,500 through the first month.
But he didn't mow very much all summer.
No.
It should have balanced out.
There's there you see Cody G, $3,000 in one bill and 4,000 on another one. So that was our biggest expense.
Does he submit a
Cody G.
expense report?
Oh, yes.
An
Does he break invoice, does he break it down for each item?
Yeah.
So much for tree or whatever?
I don't know that he does that much detail, but he does submit a invoice and negotiates it with the mayor, so.
Okay. Everything okay?
Yeah,
Good enough?
it's great.
Continue.
All right.
I mean, I want to ask, just because like, you know, like we have the trees and that price is negotiated. Then we have like sometimes like Butch does work and that's per hour. And then, you know, we have the cleaning and then that's like 100 per hour. How do we get the variance in prices that we're paying as a city? I mean, like for me, $100 an hour is expensive. I think that's a lot. I think that, you know, $100 for 1 hour, you know, maybe if somebody came in like maybe twice a week, and, you know, was able to take care of it. I don't know, but like $100 an hour.
Only here for an hour, I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, I know that last time it came up, Jared said that he had looked at other options and it really wasn't much different, but yeah, I've not tried to negotiate anything different.
I mean, that's something we can look at.
We could look for a few options, local.
I mean, just because the amount of staff members that we have in here, I would think that, you know, that an office, a city office like this size with that much traffic coming through and with this many employees that, you know, it may need a little bit, you know, more, but I was just wondering like, how are the prices generated when I know sometimes we paid, I'm just throwing out Butch there as an example, $25 for like, you know, like heavy duty stuff that we've done. And then, you know, we could justify as a city, like, I'm saying cleaning is hard and it's a hard job and, you know, it is, but I'm just trying to.
Yeah,
I'm
how
just
that's
wondering.
determined.
Yeah,
I guess
I
we,
know it was $80 a visit forever.
Right.
And I guess we can decide if 80 is too much or not. And then $20 more were added because of the police department.
Probably when the police department and the gas.
but I thought it was whenever we had a COVID and he was doing like an additional cleaning, whenever that was going on.
Now, what we did during COVID is we paid him to come every day, 4 days a week. He got that $80 every day during COVID, and the federal government paid for that while we were in that declared whatever disaster. And then it stopped as soon as the governor said we weren't in that disaster anymore. But
So yeah, I was just kind of just wanted to know, how do we base the pay rate on vendor amount? Because it just seems like to me from listening to the amounts, like it's just kind of like, we'll just, yeah, it's at our discretion, or like I would think that there would be like some kind of like.
here's what we pay for this type of service. Here's what we pay for that.
Yeah, I was just.
Well, there has
wondering.
been talk about that, particularly in the mowing of the parks,
Yeah.
where we say, okay, we're going to get 3 different bids from 3 different vendors. And we have discussed this about how much they charge per acre and all that. So there has been some discussion, at least in terms of the maintenance of the parks, in terms of how to solidify and also how to, in actuality, get other vendors that can help us. So we can even have a list, say, of electricians or plumbers or carpenters, because we don't even have that. And so we have talked about, and that's something I would like to pursue perhaps during the fall, is to get vendor bids on specific sites of mowing and maintenance within the park system.
Because like, just so I could compare, how much does a person get paid to go take out all the trash from the parks?
think it's like 125 a week or something when it's
We
showing.
expected a lot from him, and that was negotiated. He
From
was
the
coming-
parks guy, yeah.
he
So
was
that's
coming,
like dirty work.
twice a day on Saturday and Sunday, and he was coming twice during the week, so like,
But he wasn't
Two,
always
four.
coming during the-
But it's the negotiation that we had, agreement we have with them.
yeah, it was
Um,
the agreement.
And one thing about this, because these are contracted services, they're not really supposed to be done by the hour. Because by the hour implies employment.
Mhm.
And you don't want these people to be considered employees. But that doesn't mean we can't, we want to make sure we're fair about it. But you're really supposed to negotiate something like that by job.
Yeah,
Here's what you charge to do the job.
I guess to be fair, do we know exactly, is that an hour? I mean, is that just,
Do we know it takes them an hour?
do we know?
I would say that's probably right.
Pretty
I mean, I see him come and go sometimes, but he tries to avoid the action, you know, as you.
and see, like, I'm just asking like in general, because like, when it comes to our vendors, do we have like you were saying, a set rate? Because we want to stay away from hourly. Like, what is it? Is it, like, is somebody actually taking trash out of the parks 2 times a week, with everything that's, was going on and the heavy stuff, is that the same type of work that would be, you know what I mean? What I'm
Yeah.
trying to
And
say?
we can take a look at that again.
Yeah,
and
or
see
just
if
like
it's-
a pay scale.
It would be interesting to know if there's any way we could do, some kind of request for proposals. Here's the 10 line items that we need done each year. How much would you do and have people submit bids? How much would you do this job for, or this job and this job? And some people might want 2 or 3 of the jobs. Some people might only want 1, but they could submit for the jobs. For sure.
That kind of policy is uncommon, Like I just pulled this up from one of the state departments. They have a vendor performance report. I mean, there are resources out there to investigate vendor policies.
Uh-huh.
And if that's what I'm kind of gathering from this conversation, is this what city council wants to pursue? Where the city comes up with some form of use chart for mowing and city maintenance inside the office and whatnot. We have multiple vendors. The city can't operate without them.
Yeah.
One of them being, for instance, the services for IT.
Mhm.
At the moment, Jared and I are working on a RFP for new IT services, but that's a vendor.
Mhm.
We could arrange some vendor guidelines of what we expect and the kind of performance that we need from them.
Mhm.
I mean, other vendors, for instance, Pete, he offers his wastewater management operator skills for the city. Perhaps we could arrange to have a vendor policy.
Oh, Pete's not getting $100 an hour, or for the amount, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how do we itemize, how do we come up with that amount, like per
We
job?
can- Yeah.
Mhm.
We could look into that.
All right, what's next?
Wastewater.
I think we talked about that one.
Oh.
Oh, no,
wastewater.
Special revenue.
Social revenue fund, yeah.
Looks like we got $6,500 of street and road tax and hotel tax in. And there's the amounts that we get from the citations for special things like truancy. We need to do something for truancy. That money's just stacking up there. But we don't have a school. So we need to. All right, so anyway, no expenses in the special revenue fund. What's next? Community Development Fund, that 152,000 is the second half of the ARPA money that came in. That money is,
Where's that? Oh,
you see that? Yeah,
Page 17.
no expenses related to that in October. I did transfer $20,000 of it out in November. based on something that y'all directed me to do last month. Guess
All
that's
right,
it.
works.
All on the finances.
Let me pull the, I believe these are submitted out of order. Let me find the waste management report. If not, I have the attachment separate here. No, yeah. No.
So,
All right,
Oh, there it is.
you have the
It's
page.
down, yeah. It's down several pages.
Tell you the page number on the side of it. I got it. It's fine.
Looks like it's on page
picture
29.
of this point.
Where does it say the page?
And you have
There it
to
is.
tap it
There it
on
is.
the side and it'll come
So-
up. So if you hit that,
There we
it'll
go.
say 20 and
Oh,
63.
okay.
Here we are. Waste management,
All right.
All
wastewater
right, so
management
we're gonna
report.
jump up to the wastewater.
All right, come on up.
Now I lost it.
What page was it? 29?
28, 29.
Water, wastewater, so we take care of the wastewater plant here. And just to give you a little bit of history about me, I've been here since 92. I started the wastewater plant here. And I do send these reports every month for you all to see. And I've broken down the first one. It has all the lift stations, and it categorizes all the things that happen or activity that happened during the month. And like number 3 there, for example, that's a reoccurrence. That's something that we're working on right now with Jared and the engineer. That's that piping and that pump hole there at the main lift station there in Crockett Street.
Yeah, very undercover.
Yes, ma'am, correct.
That's the one that's always been so problematic.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, and that's the one that it has a broken pipe in it.
So it's not even being used right now.
One pump has it, but the other one is. But we need to address that. And I think I got an email from Jared the other day, and we're gonna revamp a meeting on January the 9th. Start going over all these things that need to be fixed. And I guess the hole on the elbow, and also
Yeah, we talked about that before, about what type of material
yes,
it is. What's that material made out of, you know?
I think it's ductile iron. That's what it is.
And do they still use that?
Yes, it is.
And slats it, how long does that last?
It depends on the atmosphere or the environment where it stands. Like wastewater field corrosion.
So is it, do they still use that in other
Well,
plants similar to
A lot of people are starting to get away from it.
Yeah.
Because of
stainless or,
yeah, stainless steel.
like, I guess stainless steel?
Correct.
That, would that be, I guess we're getting too much of a conversation about that, but that could be an option. Because I know we talked about this before about.
Yeah, it was during the pandemic, I think, so when we talked that, we had a Zoom meeting, I think. Did you have a question, Jen?
No, I was just wondering if it was coated on the inside,
Uh,
and if that makes any difference, I don't know.
they make some that is coated to the inside, and they got two different types of ductile iron. Ductile iron, and they have one that it's a mixed metals in it. It's a little weaker, but in the environment that these pipes are in, it's kind of there's a lot of gases, hydrogen sulfide. And all
That stuff too. Would it be, I guess we could find studies on like stainless steel versus that, the iron and longevity, I guess we could do a cost
Yeah,
analysis.
with stainless, yeah, it'll probably outlive all of us here.
That could be something to discuss. Okay.
Something to think about.
Yes, ma'am. And like I said, every month we write that. If you all want me to go through the whole thing, it's written up there too. If you want to look at it.
The Palm Beach?
Yeah, I'm gonna start from the top.
Oh, okay.
The Martindale Apartments, we had no alarms, so everything was good at the Martindale Apartments. Then at the Madison lift station, we encountered a problem there with the probe. It's run off of a transducer. It's a level indicator that tells the lift station that, once it has a certain amount of water, make the pumps come on or activate the pumps and stuff. And at the main lift station, I think we touched a little bit on that. And there's about 3 things that need to be done there. Is that a hole on that pipe, and also some communication from the generator back to the SCADA. And also replacing the transfer box for the generator. That's, I think Jared had talked about that too. That's part of that funding deal that y'all approved the last time, so. It's
So what is this, SCADA, the generator to the
that's
SCADA?
SCADA, yeah, that's
For communication?
yes,
So
ma'am.
Communicate so you get
Right.
notified whenever there's a
right. We have a SCADA system installed already there that if a problem occurs, it'll text you on the phone or on your computer. I think Jared gets it too, I think here. Like during a thunderstorm,
Okay.
if you get a power outage, it'll tell you that
And every time you get a warning, you gotta come in and,
incorrect, that's correct. Yeah. So, and it tells a lot of things, it could create problems, it could overflow.
about how many warnings are you getting each month?
Like that one, we didn't get any that month on for the apartments. We did.
Well, you still gotta fix the generator.
Yes, ma'am. That's it. I left that there as a reoccurrence. That way everybody knows what's going on. Those things have been,
Uh-huh.
they've been like that for a good while, so
Yeah.
they need addressing.
You do that.
Yes, ma'am. And also that we need to get that generator going too. That's another part of that equation, I think, that we need to fix. Yeah, because when the power goes out or we get a flood, we need that power source to generate, to turn the pumps on at the lift station so that we can continue pumping
Do you
wastewater.
have a list of materials that we need to do?
Yes, and
That
I
would
did.
be nice with quotes.
I had them during that when we talked last, but everything went up and it's got to be
Yeah,
updated.
mine needs to be redone,
Yes.
revamped. Okay. That'd be
And-
nice to.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah, because I know that,
throwing it in our faces, so that.
yeah,
Yes.
and it's
We're good on that.
it's like these things I send them to the mayor every month and even Jared. And also, this is just part of the equation here and also, we, at the wastewater plant, we had no irrigation this month because the ponds are low. During the summer, we took advantage of the
Drought.
also the evaporation.
Gotcha.
How often is irrigation needed? Or is it on a demand basis when the ponds on the side start to get high?
Well, you want to keep at least, but on a permit activity to keep 2 feet of freeboard, so you don't want no more or no less. So you want to really have some kind of water management during the summer.
Mhm.
Because going into the fall, it gets rainy and
Right.
wet. You can't irrigate. It's
Right.
bonded and all that stuff.
I guess we talked about this before. This is the right, I think, time for this conversation about the sludge. Remember I talked about the sludge content? And possibly you could do a reading to see what the sludge is, and if that sludge was removed, how much capacity would be increased.
Yeah, and I addressed that with a gentleman that transfers the sludge out of the
Yeah.
ponds.
And,
He said he did I think at Cedar Park, I think, or somewhere, I don't know where it was, but he said that they in the pond, but they took it in sections because it's kind of hard it's like a hit and miss. You hit pockets of sludge here, and then you may not hit some at certain depths.
Is there any, I mean, we talked about this, is there any way to do these sludge, calculations? If we remove the sludge, how much capacity we'd increase? Because we were able to contain more water?
Yeah, and I understand your concept, what you're trying to tell me. That way you have more room to.
Yeah, and that way you don't have to use your irrigation system. If your evaporation pond is deeper and can hold more liquids. Would that be of an expensive thing to?
It can be expensive, as far as taking them.
I mean, not taking the sludge out, but to see how much sludge we actually have. And if we remove that sludge, what kind of an increase in capacity?
In other words, would it be worth it to do it?
Yeah, because I met with a gentleman last Friday, I believe, And he's with that Unlimited Communities. or-
Communities Unlimited.
the other way around. But anyway, and he said that they have there's a lab in the valley. And he said that he made this enzyme, it's a little strong. And it's in the powder form. You throw it inside in the ponds and yes, and it activates the enzyme and then it just goes in there and
To actually reduce the sludge.
That'd be nice.
that's a little,
Another thing that was
So
probably pretty expensive.
I guess my question is what I'm getting to. And I mean, it would be, I mean, if we could just find out if it would be that cost effective to see exactly, because we're talking about building plants and all this. I would really like to know, and you made a good point one time, that in your experience, that if you, this evaporation pond system we use, that typically every 10 years, the sludge is removed, correct?
it's supposed to, yeah.
We've been 40 years.
40 years.
So, I mean, I think that's a good avenue for us to check into before we start talking about treatment plant. I mean, I would really like to know.
And there, we talked about all those options, but that guy that came in.
Yeah.
And about, because I want to be ready whenever y'all talking about these people moving in, houses, building.
I mean, I think that'd be very useful for us to know as a city, what do we have? What is our, if we do remove the sludge, how much is the sludge going to cost us to get it removed? How much capacity would be increased? Upgrades and all that could be, I guess that could be part of the
I think
piping.
that's what we're gonna be exploring in the next month or so.
Okay.
We have an appointment with Thomas Turk on that.
On the ninth, right?
Ninth or something.
Yes, like that.
Okay,
Let's
So
just get through
January
this
is-
report.
okay, that's all.
I can bring a gentleman that's done the actual work,
Oh, that'd be great. You can do that. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. That'd be excellent. Like to pick his brain a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he knows a little bit more because he has the machinery.
Thank you.
Did you mention the smoke test on those, or is that for another conversation?
Yeah, I think I'm not gonna go too in depth with those. They want to put those probably on another agenda.
Okay.
But let's see what else. At the apartment, not the apartment, but at the
I have a
wastewater.
question here. You said on number 2 for the Martindale Pond system, it said you collect monthly the BOD samples and check the pH daily.
Mhm.
What is BOD?
It's called the bio oxygen chemical demand,
Oh,
and that's what it stands for. And to try to explain it to you, it'll take a little.
no, don't worry about it.
But
I was just curious.
that's what that is. And
It's
it's
just a technical thing.
yeah, but because that sample is required on your permit.
Okay.
That's required, and also the pH. We take that sample, I guess, once a month.
Back to my question again. So if we had all the sludge removed, would that help that?
It would, and that's what
BOD?
that gentleman said, that it'll help the pH.
Okay.
Okay, let's go ahead.
I'm not putting, I hope I'm not putting.
Can I talk, sir? Okay.
Anyway, just to answer your quick question here,
Yes, you can.
it will,
Okay.
it will help the.
I think it's a good time for that button.
Thank you.
All right, let's go ahead, finish the report.
I'm done. Thank you.
Anyway, then we have this other sheet. I didn't bring everything with me, but there's like 4 pages of reports. But this is your influent. We take the readings off the hour meters at the pumps at the main lift station, and then we get all the hours calculated, and that's how we discern our flow reading for the day. If you scroll down all the way to the bottom, right there, that's a total that came in. It was like 894,091 gallons for the
For the
month.
month of November.
Yes, ma'am. And then it averaged about 29,805 gallons. And the maximum was 178,611 gallons. That's a large number because we check out the lift station only 5 days a week, and it lags behind Saturday and Sunday. When you come back to Monday, it's like it tripled the amount. Yeah, and the very last is the minimum, the lowest at your lowest point, how many gallons you came into the wastewater plant. Like I said, I have some other reports. I didn't bring them with me and I apologize for that, but I started putting them.
That's a good report. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's good. Thank you.
Sir, thanks, Pete.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So,
Give us an education.
At least sent to us an email, I think, just to
Yeah.
keep
Okay.
us informed if we
I
don't
will
want.
do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
That'd be nice
from
to
now
know.
on. I
It's
always
nice to
get
have it
It's important
explained.
that y'all know, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I'd love
Appreciate
to
it.
have a tour of all the lift stations
Oh.
and the plant.
Yeah,
I think
Idea.
every city council member needs to do that.
yeah, because at the end of the day, we're all responsible for that.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
thank
Pete.
you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Okay, let's move on to the Parks Advisory Board.
Okay, so Carol would typically give this report. However, Carol is sick and is having a little bit of a hard time speaking. So I'll be,
Thanks. Have a good evening.
the Parks Chair asked me to pass on the information that was discussed during the last Parks Advisory meeting
Hey.
last week.
I'm sorry, Adrian, but since she's sick and she can't be here, and if we have questions and we need to ask her, can we just table it until she can?
Well, if you allow me just to mention two things, the last page has I believe is something you guys should study. The Parks Advisory Board came up with a itemized cost list, what improvements the parks can use. It's approved by the Parks Board. And some of these items are pretty trivial, one of them being reflective lights on park poles. Some of these projects are a little bit more expensive. One being improving the ADA compliance with parks.
All right,
Like
so
jungle
you're not
gyms.
gonna go over the soccer thing, you're not gonna go.
Well,
in
if you guys
order?
want to table it, I just wanted to mention
I like
that.
it.
I'd like to go on with it
Mhm.
because Jeff has done a lot of research on this. The information that we need is specified here about all of it. It's made of aluminum, it's this big, it costs this much, this is
So what are
shipping.
we talking
I mean, we talked about this for many, many months,
Sure.
and so I would like to discuss it.
Right, okay, we'll
Yeah.
walk back a little and,
Yeah, as long as somebody's here where we can ask questions and we're not just being presented something where we can't.
Jeff
Ask
knows
questions.
about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Jeff,
okay, we can answer those
It goes to all-
questions.
It goes to all
I'm
of
gonna
you.
vote him to educate us on this subject.
Yeah, the-
He's been sitting so
Yeah.
long,
So-
got brick in his name.
we can just go through the report and then we can just, if you, unless you have
Recommend.
something to add.
Just do your report.
Donation.
You want to do this report first?
Do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just do it.
So, Maureen, come and go, am I saying that right?
but Carol says that she's here. Carol, are you wanting to speak?
I can
Maybe she-
speak, but it sounds really squeaky at times. But yes, I can speak if you need me to.
Yeah,
What do you guys think?
Let's let
Just,
Jeff.
we'll let Jeff do the goal.
yeah.
The goal.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Jeff.
go ahead,
Uh-huh.
please.
Okay, so Maury lives right back here. Every time I go to we pass out the,
Yes, so.
Yeah, it's on.
Mhm.
We already got it.
okay. Well, there's the park from above, and this is east and this is west. And there's this pretty big expanse of green out there, especially on the right. And every time I used to walk by that, I'd say, this would be a really nice place for a soccer field. And then Maury looked at that and said, this would be a really nice place for a soccer field. And somebody told me what he said and vice versa. So I said, gee, maybe we could get some soccer goals. He says, I'll put in $2,000 for a couple of soccer goals. And I went, oh, well, that might work. Yes, sir. So we worked on it for a while back in May. Initial email went out to the Martindale Parks Advisory Board meetings. I came here on June 13th and talked about a lot of this. But basically, okay, the soccer goals. I looked at a lot of soccer goals. I sent a lot of those same emails and photos to Maury. And to me, I think the best thing we've come up with is the picture of the soccer goals somewhere.
Yes.
Be like, that's the cost. Okay, so yeah, we looked at these right away. I mean, you can get, a regular soccer goal is 24 feet like 8 feet, like on the TV right now with the World Cup. Those are full-size adult soccer goals. 100 yard by 63. Yeah.
Those are the three.
I never thought about putting in a full-size soccer goal for that small piece.
Yeah.
I mean, I've coached kids from like 3v3 with very small goals up to high school kid age where they play full-size goals when they get like into high school stuff. But we don't need that. This is basically a half-size goal. It's 12 by 6. So for the space that it's in, I think it's going to be perfect. And we were thinking about, talk to the people in the Parks Advisory. I was talking about doing plastic goals, and they said, "Oh no, the kids hang on them, they break them. Believe me, you don't want plastic." The steel's going to be even on the opposite extreme, but these aluminum goals here, they look pretty nice. Now, I know we have to send them in the box and we have to put them together, but I talked to this guy in my voice. Soccer started in Great Britain, okay, England. This guy was in Wales, okay. It just said the city, and it didn't say which country. It's Michael Gilliver. And it got an accent and everything. I said, this guy sounds legit, He says, this Net World Sports, they do a lot of business. They're even working with the World Cup people right now in Qatar where they're doing this. He says they have a lot of their equipment here. But anyway, he said, yeah, I'll give you these 2 goals. There's the 1899, it's 1900. Okay, then he gave me a break on the shipping and tax. And the total came to 2349. Maury said, okay, that's no problem. I can pick up the extra for the, it comes in 3 boxes and it comes with the instructions. You can put them all together. And then we take them out there, and Lee Rust, duck bill socket. Okay, so this goes into the ground, and you cement it in there, and then you take the post and you lock it in there. There's slip blocks. I don't know all the details on it. He says these work. This is what.
Those stay permanent, so then you just take the nets off and store them somewhere, and then come.
Right, and they just stay at grade.
Ground level.
Stay at grade or a centimeter below or so you don't hit them with the mower. Okay.
Sounds good.
So we'll need 4 of those, and then if you need to move them, you can move them. I mean, or you can put in new ones if you need to. But I was just going to pick up the cost on the duck bill sockets. Okay. Lee Russ says everything should be good. Soccer goals. Now
So we're looking at $18,999.99.
Well, that's
Been donated, money's been donated.
Yeah.
Not the amount, but the goals itself.
So the actual cost is going to be $2,349.98 with the tax and shipping.
No tax.
Yeah. Well, it's.
No,
Regardless, the city won't be paying that.
There you go.
It's not receiving a monetary.
no, yeah, on the invoice, you do not have tax because we're tax
It's
exempt.
free, so it's not an issue.
So is Mari donating the money to the city and then the city is buying it, or is he buying it himself?
He's purchasing the goal post and donating the equipment to the city.
So then there will be tax.
Yes.
He's paying the.
If he's paying for it and he's donating this to the
Yeah.
city.
Okay.
Michael Gillibles should have listed tax, the shipping, he said, I'm gonna give you the break on the shipping and the tax together, and that came out to.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so.
That's why it was one line.
Laurie has to worry about that. We
Yeah.
don't. We have to worry about how it goes, how the accountant deals with it, the donation.
I'm surprised someone from Great Britain would even charge Texas sales tax. It's probably a moot point. And there's probably not gonna be any tax. I don't see it on here, is there?
Yeah, I don't see
Yeah.
I think it's a win-win.
All right, but
He
anyway,
mentioned
it's still
tax.
needed.
Is that
I
how
have
it
a
works?
question.
Yeah, you've gotta have a license to collect tax for a jurisdiction, and if you're in
Okay,
England,
well,
you don't
maybe
have a
that's why he
license.
just dropped
Yeah.
it. We were talking
But
about
that's
it.
not
We dropped
something
it.
we
They
have to
talked
worry
about,
about, the council.
talked about shipping. Maury said he's willing to pick up.
Okay.
Okay.
That's not something we need to worry about as a county now.
No, and then Lee's got his duckbill sockets. Now, I'm just gonna tell you real quick. Some people on the other board, Martindale Parks Board, they said we need to get soccer goals with wheels, okay?
Jeff, Jan would like to ask a question, please.
Yeah.
All right, we know that we're doing, that you're getting all this donated, and that's fine.
Okay.
Who is maintaining it and taking care of it? And
You are a man.
just one person?
Well, and whoever else
We got a good volunteer.
Charging for it?
Go
Well,
for
I've
it.
already been mowing the
And
grass
then
out there,
what-
so I'll just keep mowing the
He's gonna do
grass.
And then what happens when you don't want to do it anymore or can't do it anymore?
That's y'all's problem.
That's our
I
problem.
And I'm dead, like I'm dead in the ground, no. I'll do it.
No.
No, I know what you mean, I know what you mean. If the people don't vandalize the equipment, there's not gonna be that much upkeep except to mow the grass and try to keep grass on the field. And now, we talked about nets, the nets to replace are only about $60 or $70, which is not too bad for a net if somebody cuts it off. And I asked about metal nets, can we get metal nets? He goes, I don't know,
I
anybody.
have an extra set of nets.
Okay, extra nets.
And then I think, yeah, that's just something, just to consider is just like vandalization of somebody, just a thought. I love the idea of the goals. One thing that I wanted to ask, just as a city, would we have to put a sign posted that states the city of Martindale will not be responsible for accidents that happen at this, while playing soccer or,
Yes, and we should also put one down by the river.
And are we gonna have?
There is one down by the river.
Anything like that?
for the accidents if you're swimming in the river?
Down by the river, you mean at the front of the park? Okay,
Yes.
In the front of the park, okay, okay.
But yes, for the soccer goals, will we have to, put a couple of signs? So that'll be a cost on the city that will,
If we were to put signs like that, it'd be about $60.
Yeah.
And it'll come out of the Parks Fund, if anything,
for the Parks Fund.
including the nets. I mean,
Well, the nets, you mean the replacement nets?
And so.
right, so those,
Wouldn't that,
With
it could come out of the printing fund, that's right.
but wouldn't, I don't know that we need a separate sign because we have park rule signs already, which should cover
Yeah.
any kind of mischief. And I think this is extremely generous on Marty's
Oh, yeah, I
part
agree.
to donate this much money to our parks.
And you can get Agora goalpost pads, for two of them, for about $100. That would be the two pads and 4 pads. With the injuries you're talking about.
Yes,
You're not supposed to run into the poles, but you.
it happens.
No, I'm saying, the kids could do that. Yeah, but so.
I just envision the ball going into the river.
Yeah, I'm afraid of that. There's trees in the way.
They
They float.
It's gonna-
Mr. Latterman, I got one question, and that's all I got. What about a flood situation? Do we have a plan to get the dams
Yes.
out of there?
Yes, yes.
Good enough.
He's gonna get them.
Oh, yeah, I talked to Sean McDonald tonight on the phone, and he guaranteed me he has a flatbed trailer, which is at least 12 feet long. And I don't know, what's that gonna be, 8 feet wide? I don't know what.
Yeah, 8 feet wide.
Okay. He's got a trailer like that, and he says he will make that available right away.
Good enough. That's my question
We
answered.
pop them out, and you say we can't leave them in place because the water will just take them.
Oh, they just go downstream. They just be gone. You could lose them. You have trash in the river.
Even if they're.
Yeah. I like that removable.
So, how often are they gonna be set up?
Left,
How often are they gonna be set up?
They're going in, and hopefully they're gonna stay.
except for the flood.
If it flood and we have some disaster plan, we
We
could
need to
ask.
take them out, we can take them out, and if we can get one with wheels, or we can buy wheels to put on these, but they're gonna cost about $100 per person, 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyway, if you wanna buy wheels to wheel something, we'd have to buy the wheels.
What does this thing weigh?
You know what,
A couple of men could lift that up. That's
well, there may be something on here.
limits light. A couple of men could lift that and get it out.
They said it's movable as far as,
Oh, let's
in
get it
and
out.
out, like the trailer and stuff like that.
Get it out of there. That's all, only question I had. Thank you.
It's
I have a question about the placement.
Mhm.
You know, there used to be like a I don't know, like a track
There used to be a
that's
track.
around there. I kind of miss
We,
that.
yeah, and we can put a track around this if we'd like to put the track back in, just around the edge. This isn't, Harold said something about, well, are you gonna spray and put white lines and all this kind of stuff in? I'm not gonna do that right away. We can do that over time if somebody really wants to use it for like a game or
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
okay? But we can, I have no problem. I know that people used to walk the track every day. They live right down the street over here from this photo. The lady and her son, and they'd like to get that gravel put in, back around there. And
Right.
we can put that back
Yeah,
in.
but it'll have to be placed differently.
Well, it's gonna be in a very similar location where it was.
Looks good.
Thank you for your work on
Yeah, thanks,
this.
Jeff.
I know you've done a lot of work on it.
Ask for gravel to go back and do that track.
Yeah, that's fine, that's fine.
We have asked for the gravel.
That's a different,
Right.
that's not a lot.
No, but that's fine. I have no problem with that.
Okay.
I think this is a very nice gift for our city, and it's something new to try, and I'm very grateful for all the work that you've done.
Thank you. Ms.
Thank
Letterman.
you.
And I think people are gonna like it. And I don't know if you
Oh,
want.
yeah, they are.
People to come to the park.
Oh, yeah, we want people to come to the park.
You build it, they will come.
We'll probably
Make
have
sure you don't have a
They
can in your
will
hand, you're
come.
fine.
one really hot day I was out there in the summer. I was talking to him about this goals and everything. These guys were in high school, college. They're walking down to the river with their soccer balls. They're cooling off, but they were playing basketball for half an hour. They go to the river and cool off, and they come back and they're dribbling their soccer ball back up the road. I said, if we put a soccer ball here, would you guys come over and play? Oh, yeah, of course, sure. They were from the Lockhart area.
Hmm.
People come from Lockhart. I mean, I think this is their second home. I mean, to me, there's a
That's
lot.
why we need a regional park with the county.
Okay.
I could say that. I could help it. Sorry.
Okay.
So where do we move on
Adrian,
about
let's
this?
move on to 25B,
So,
the recommendations.
right. In the last meeting, they discussed soccer goals. They, as in the Parks Advisory Committee, discussed the seed planting. Seed planting will be done on the other side where the proposed soccer post will be placed along the fence line,
On both sides.
one side at the moment.
In the workshop.
The Parks Advisory Board did recommend that the city council look into changing or making amendments to the current board ordinances
Can,
that
can
exist.
you go back, excuse me, Adrian, can you go back for a
Yes, ma'am.
second to the seeds? We would like the city to have a liability for volunteers on the seeds and, on the planting. It'll go down, there'll be a no-mow zone that we wanted to keep. And, also, there's another area that was added with Lee Road.
Doesn't even talk
and I think,
about
I'm sorry. Can Lee, is there, can he explain about the other part on the seed planting?
He's not here tonight, but I know that you guys have been
Right.
working on doing, using the lots on Fannin Street.
That's right. So the lots across the Allen Bates Park, there are 3 city lots. And to keep people off those lots, sorry, let me get a hold of that. Okay. Prevent people from using those lots, we're hoping to use the seeds that the Wanda Library has received to be planted there to prevent parking and people using those lots to place junk. And so it'll be a kept area.
And.
And then they wouldn't
Those lots are
accidentally-
park lots.
No, there are green space.
They're green space.
That's right.
We can't use those for parking.
If city council wants to look at that as an option, we could potentially use that as a additional parking for Allen Bates Park, since it's right across the street. There is I believe, a pretty
There's a
faded.
danger on that corner of having, encouraging people to walk across.
Okay, anyway, right now it's green
So,
space.
right, but
And that's how we're gonna deal with it
Right.
right now,
to-
okay,
with the remaining seats that they're,
okay.
also the seed planting will do a little bit of spreading at
Mhm.
phase 1 where the
So,
Kanban sign is. And then if there's any seats left for this planting, they'll be placed at Guardiola.
I have a
So-
suggestion though about things in the future that are gonna be constructed and devised on city property, that components of the city such as me or other people that are involved in the parks be involved in a communication and a collaboration about where it's gonna be, what kind of tools we're gonna use and all this. I just feel like in the future there, because yes, it's great. We have this donation of the seeds, but remember, it's being done on city property that is maintained by the city, and that those kinds of discussions should be paramount and be as a constructive dialogue between all parties concerned. And that is something that I felt like was a step that was missed. Maybe I didn't communicate enough about it, or I did, and then it's so there's been many other discussions. I really don't like the
I didn't realize
idea.
it was going in that green space area.
Well, I
That's gonna
prepared
be
the space on the
problematic if
right
we need it
side,
for
but then
parking.
that didn't get discussed properly. And I really don't think that we should put wildflower seeds on all the parks, parking lots on Fannin Street, though. We can do it
I
on
agree.
one, but not all three. So I think we need to really get together and collaborate with this
Right.
more. We have time. We have time to discuss this more.
I don't know what the plan was. It was only on one lot, wasn't it?
I just thought it was in Allen Bates.
So-
It was
I
on the
did not.
very first one.
There's that
because there
right,
was
the
an
corner lot.
interpretive, the thought was there would be possibly some interpretive signs, because these seeds are really neat. First, when you plant these seeds, first you're gonna have one crop, and then it can be explained what is growing. Those will die down, the next ones start growing up.
Mhm.
Those will die down, the next ones start growing up. So it's a very educational, kind of experiment that I know that the Parks Department would like to
And
try
if
to
the
do.
city wants to do something else with those lots,
Yeah.
we're gonna
It's-
have
we
a
didn't-
problem with the public getting rid of those,
Yeah, that could be an
you know,
issue.
if we have to plow up those nice.
Flower beds.
Yes.
Wildflower's still dormant, though. I mean, you just.
Yeah, I know, but if we.
You just do it when they're not.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a big boom. I just kind of would have liked been a little bit more involved in the grant.
So these, yes, Carol?
Originally when I applied for the grant, it was during Rob's mayorship, and I talked to Jared about it, and I talked to Rob, and I talked to Adrian, and I've talked to Catherine, and I've talked to, they were in on all of this when I applied for the grant each time. So it's a grant that we took through the library, so that we could get it as a nonprofit, because the library is a nonprofit. And I understand that Sam wants to be part of this. However, the grant is going through the library. I had the grant already set. And what we were going to do was be developing ecosystems and educational programs. That is part of the grant to do that. So what he's talking about, what he did, went down there and he said there was a lack of communication. I did not know that he was going to be doing that. So I see what he's saying. However, he did not come to me before he did that. What we're doing on the other parks, we don't have to do. We can just keep those seeds and put it somewhere else. But the original intent was to go down the edge of the park, from the parking lot down to the river. So if
Maybe we can get back to the parks meeting
Yeah.
There you
and
go.
discuss
Yeah,
it
that's
some
totally
more.
agree. We're
It
getting off
seems
track
like it
here.
hasn't been
Yeah,
decided.
We'll
that-
look into the city council's involvement, but we'll have the Parks Advisory Board revisit the item and hear the considerations.
Come back again.
Right.
It's not-
So at that same meeting, the Parks Advisory Board had last week, they discussed an issue with membership. They've had a board member absent for about the last 6-7 meetings
Or more.
or more.
since last February.
And there's not really a clearly stated definition or section in the ordinance that leads to the removal of a board member. It typically for city council, the state, if a city council member misses 3 meetings consecutively, you're removed from the city council, and the Parks Advisory Board recommended that same policy being stated throughout the boards, but particularly in the Parks Advisory Board.
I just thought it was just kind of like a city council meeting, the same kind of rules, having to follow the Open Meeting Act and yada, yada, yada.
I think
Right.
our workshop and a little bit later, we're
That
going to.
We'll
We'll
discuss
go in
that, but they're
detail.
recommending that the city council adopt an ordinance that addresses that issue.
Yeah.
Now, lastly, in the Parks Advisory Board meeting, the last Parks Advisory Board meeting, they discussed a maintenance plan for the parks, particularly of Allen Bates Park. Carol herself, she went out, took pictures, and provided a report to the advisory board, issues that exist in the park right now. One of them being, well, we'll go down the list, page 28. So she broke down the cost of what it takes to run Allen Bates Park. She worked with Dwayne on this, and her recommended items was to improve lighting in the parking lot, potential kiosk, replace the grills in Allen Bates Park. Now, what's recommended for City Council is to receive this report and study it and see what they would like to be used. What recommendations from the Parks Advisory Board would be applicable, would the City Council like to see?
Because they are recommendations. It's not like.
So you want us just to look at these and then make recommendations or
Right.
comments on that?
That's
Yes.
right. So give the Parks Advisory Board some feedback, or even in a future City Council meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's like mowing Bates monthly, 250, 8 times. I think we actually mow it more than 8 times a year. So there's a little bit of tweaking.
Right.
And then the maintenance on there was for 52 weeks at $125 a week. Where's that line item for the maintenance?
So this is a estimate.
For the thing, yeah.
There's not a breakdown of what comes out of the Parks Fund. Parks Fund is a $25,000, $24,000 line item. And if you were to take a close look from last year's receipts, it takes about $17,000 to maintain the parks. And right now there's about $25,000 in the Parks Fund. So there's a little bit of wiggle room to consider projects. And so if council would direct their attention to the right side, these are projects that the City Council could pursue. Not saying that each and every individual line item on the right-hand side should be completed, but they're recommendations. So if council will like down the line to create a kiosk at Allen Bates Park, the estimate cost would be about $1,000.
Kiosk for the parking? What is the kiosk
A
like?
kiosk would be news on the parks or events, upcoming events. It's kind of like we have the bulletin board here, City Hall, but one at the parks.
But one thing we need to do, I mean, everybody's using our parks. We need to have some sort of fee. If, I mean, I want to get into that. I mean, if you're not a citizen, that needs to be put in there. I mean, a park, we need to talk about that because this is a lot of money and it's out of pocket. I think we've been talking about the parking.
But you don't have to adopt all these recommendations.
I think that needs to be on the
Wasn't
list.
that
Mark
just
starts for their part.
Let me speak, Jan, please. So what I'm asking for, we asked before about this, some kind of a parking system for if you're a non-resident. And I think that needs to be on that list because that's revenue for the city. And we need help with our park because everybody's using them that lives out of town. So I would like to have that put in there.
From this discussion, I've gotten that the green spaces could be considered a parking space. And then as Mike's consideration of creating parking.
Like a numbered parking space, asphalt, the parking numbered with a pay kiosk.
something,
That could be it.
Hey,
We can't
Yeah,
have
there's-
asphalt, though, we have.
Impervious
stuff.
yeah,
Okay.
you're right.
Something,
Or something
Right,
that,
right,
you know,
Because all I'm seeing is expense, 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 expense is great, but we need to have revenue. And like I said, everybody's coming here, it's a beautiful park, and if you don't, I mean, we need to be, I mean, San Marcos is going through this right now, they haven't solved their problem yet.
I make a recommendation, we have a workshop in the
Correct.
future about the parks on
parks revenue.
how to increase revenue for the parks. Even the line item there is 52 weeks at 125 a week. That's 52 weeks out of the year, 6,500. That sounds very reasonable, but also who is going to monitor the person that's maintaining the parks? That's what's lacking in our city, is someone to maintain, I mean, not only to maintain the park, but to monitor the maintenance.
Would you say
Which
that?
I do a lot, and Jeff does it a lot. So the city is actually getting all this for free now.
Right.
So would you want city
And-
staff to monitor a vendor's progress throughout the parks, or install like a checklist for vendors to fill out on the projects or jobs done at the park?
Hmm.
I mean, there's just two ways to look at it. You know, one takes time and employees' time, which is it's in some way reflected as a city cost.
Now, we've already
we could-
budgeted 25,000 for the parks, right?
Right. So
Okay, and this is less than 25,000.
that's right. The expected use is $17,000.
but it would be the 17,000 plus the almost
Well,
11,000.
These are
Right.
recommended
That's
These are-
projects. Those are recommended projects that.
We need revenue.
Have to vote on
We
separately.
need revenue.
But
The
this,
17,000 is the stuff that's just from daily operation.
but that's only mowing it 8 times a year. That is not correct. It costs a lot more than that.
But that needs to be.
Yeah, let's all have a workshop on this later.
Yes.
So you want
I
to have a
agree.
workshop on parks revenue.
And
We ought
maintenance,
to do it
and
with the
maintenance.
parks,
Well,
committee too,
parks.
Probably.
Parks is, because then we could discuss signs like we did last time, and that took
Yeah,
3 hours.
there's a lot.
So to dedicate, you know, a revenue workshop would make sense, or dedicate a vendor's workshop for the parks would also make sense. Yeah, we could have that together.
Yeah, have it all in one.
But a general parks workshop,
Let's just table this and we can have it.
it's just a report. And so
Yeah.
city council, just,
We don't have to make.
if you guys would,
decisions.
I'll bring these recommendations.
Thank you.
I just have, I want to ask, I know that she had asked about the liability form from the city.
Yeah.
And is that for like every event, or is that only for the seed planting?
This is for the seed planting, but hopefully we can use that liability form as a continuing document for other volunteer projects, say the citywide cleanup, and if we need volunteers for that, hopefully we could transfer that same template into future projects.
So I would just like to ask, as a city, if we do have volunteer organizations that are volunteering, if it's a night event, a day event, if the cafe is open, are the volunteers allowed to drink during their time that they're volunteering?
What are they drinking?
Beer.
Alcohol.
They are.
Yeah.
You could probably put a provision in there, like if you agree to volunteer for the city of Martindale, you will,
Staying.
you know,
Well, I mean, I'm just saying because.
use your
like,
best
we-
judgment.
If we are saying, yes, volunteer, yes, we want you to volunteer, then God forbid if an accident or something happens, or, you know, we don't know if, you know, there is partaking in alcohol, something happens. I mean, whatever, I don't know,
So something will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would
Start giving
not
guys
want
beer.
We could probably have two
Okay, but
different
anyway.
forms, like a agreement to proper conduct and then a release of liability form.
yeah.
Have two separate volunteer, like a volunteer packet. All right, well,
Thanks.
that concludes the Parks report, and then the next item will be the workshop for the next.
Thank you, Carol.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you all.
That's a
And
good
thank you,
start.
That's a lot of
That's a
work.
good
They've done a lot
start.
of work.
You guys have done
It
a lot.
needs to
Yes.
be done.
We do appreciate the effort. Thank you very much.
And to Lee Rust also.
Yes, and Adrian. Thank you.
Is there anything to add to the future agenda items other than the parks workshop? I can tell you that Adrian's working hard on the employee handbook,
No, I
and when he gets it done, we'll
appreciate
show
the
it to
draft.
y'all.
I appreciate them in the draft. Looks good.
We need to keep up on our dates on the employee evaluations. We have talked about that, 6 months, 12 months. I think we need to revisit employee evaluations.
Right.
Thank you.
Are we going into our next rules for boards and commissions?
We have-
Well,
we have
we're gonna
adjourn
conclude
now.
the regular city council meeting, then we'll have the workshop.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Okay, and all in favor,
Aye.
please say aye. Any nays? Okay, we'll take a 5-minute, 5-minute break.
Smoke a cigarette.
Yeah, cigarettes.
5 to 7 minutes.
She wanted change. Okay, it's 8:11 on December 8th, 2022, and I will call this workshop to order. Do I need to roll call it here?
For safe measure.
Mayor Pro Tem
Here.
Villalobos, Councilmember Bunker,
Here.
Councilmember Styler, Councilmember McLeod,
Here.
Councilmember Clinton,
Here.
and I'm Catherine Glaze. We're going to skip the pledges and the invocation and just go straight to the workshop. And so Adrian and I and Jared have been talking about how to make boards and commissions more effective for the city. And how that they can assist the city. And they've been doing pretty good, but we just think that there's some things like we mentioned in the meeting that need to be clarified and stuff. So I'm gonna let Adrian talk.
Okay, so the purpose of the workshop is that we're going to review the first section being the rules and procedures for boards and commissions that are on a volunteer basis, not to say the current city council being the P&Z. So for instance, boards like the River Advisory Board, the Parks Advisory Board, and the Historic Commission, they have certain obligations to meet, the application process, and so forth. Please, throughout the presentation, stop me with any questions or recommendations. I'd like to hear from everybody what they think should be included or removed in the packets given to you guys, which is the draft board ordinance. If you guys have any further questions after the meeting that occur to you sometime throughout the week, you could always email me those and that would be considered. And so we'll start the presentation with the first section of the workshop, which is the rules and procedures. What this ordinance would accomplish is setting a structure to how to apply to be on the boards. It's going to talk about meeting requirements. It's going to also address terminations and so forth. Right now, it's not clearly identified the city's employees' role on all the boards. And so the city administrator often is mentioned or as designated. So for instance, typically, informally, I've been assigned the Parks Board, but this is a responsibility of the city administrator. There is sections in the ordinance that states that the city administrator will oversee all boards except for the planning and zoning. That'll be the building official or a designee in writing. Now, I would like to mention a few things that were brought to my attention. One of the main concerns was board members failing to attend meetings consecutively. We talked about this a bit ago. And if city council is happy with it, is there any questions or concerns about board members missing 3 consecutive meetings and that turning into a vacancy?
I have no problem with that.
Does everybody think that's fair?
I do.
Now, is it something that is up to the board or commission?
So the boards,
Or is it something that would be mandatory?
to adopt that rule?
Well,
Or,
would the rule include that that 3 strikes you're out?
that's right.
Or should we have the board recommend it and, decide whether or not that person, I mean, what if that person?
The vacancy will immediately take into effect and a notification via email, whatever form of communication is provided in their application, they'll be notified that you are no longer on the board, given your 3 vacancies. And then the application and announcement process will begin again.
So with the attendance of the monthly I'm still not sure about mandatory monthly meetings or not, or you're saying special meetings, but then would the chairperson of the board then report to you and say such and such attended the meetings and such didn't, and then you would compile those meetings, or would you keep a roster of those certain participators of the committee that has not attended? Would you keep track of that?
So there is 3 titles in each board, which one being the chair, the vice chair, and the historian/secretary. The historian/secretary or the chair will be responsible for notifying the city clerk that a member has failed to attend 3 meetings, which will automatically result into a termination. Now,
3 consecutive meetings.
that's right,
Okay.
or 60 or 50% of their term.
Which, quick question, do some of these meetings, are some people on Zoom or not?
Yes, we actually have quite a few members on Zoom.
So if they attend by Zoom, that doesn't count against them, right?
No.
Thank you.
Do we know who's Zoomed in right now from those committees?
We have Charlie Olds, Carol Deviney, and that's really it that have identified themselves as those names.
I think like in order not to make this like so complicated is like each boarding commission, like you said, has their secretary. If they miss 3 consecutive times, they, let the city secretary know. And then like, I would say like as a city secretary, you could call, number one, because make sure everything is okay with them first and foremost, because maybe something is going on health-wise or illness-wise or whatever. Then once after you either verbally communicate with them or in an email, then, after that, I mean, I think if like somebody has an illness and is in the hospital or, or cannot attend, I mean, but I always think that there needs to be like communication and to see, and if it's not initiated by the secretary of the board or commission, that it be done by our city secretary. And then after that, then like Jan said, it's brought up to the commission and then we remove them.
So you want the removal to be approved by city council
Jan, is that what?
or the advisory committee. Because if that's the case, then you're going to have a 4 member board voting. So the majority might change, or we leave it as all 3 members of a board have to accept. Because right now,
They could leave it up to the board, right?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
The board, but
so a board, you want to give the board an authority to remove members who have missed 3 meetings. And I'm getting kind of like a doctor's note type of thing, or a
I mean,
medical, or
first and foremost, we're all humans.
Right.
I mean, like, if somebody like is on a board and if they just don't care or don't show up or are too busy to it, then maybe I'm sure like if they didn't have the decency to call and like say that maybe if a call is initiated either by the secretary or by yourself and you just like verbally say, you've missed, we want to know if everything is okay with you, is everything all right? So this is where we're at. And then after that communication, let the board know, I've communicated with so-and-so, they cannot attend. If they cannot, because they're busy and they're doing other things, then they're off. If they're sick, then explain that to them. Maybe they need a leave of absence. I mean, I don't know if they can attend by Zoom or whatever, but I think leave it up to their boarding commission.
we'll put that.
Yeah, and the only thing that concerns me about eliminating somebody from the board is the lag time or the amount of time it takes in order to reinitiate somebody, because you have to put a appeal out to the city, say in our monthly newsletter or in our monthly bills. And then, so there's a month. Then you get applications, there's another month. And then, so it looks like it would almost take conceivably 3 months to get somebody else on the board.
Well, here, there's a section that addresses vacancies or potential vacancies.
How can we streamline that?
Right, so we'll be using the city website. You know, the power of the internet is a great resource that we have. And the applications will be submitted via the city's website. You can complete forms and applications through online or submit them here in the office. And we'll be posting these, I believe it says on other means of posting. So like bulletin board, have them here at City Hall, and we have the access to the bulletin board in the post office. So all means that we typically use to advertise city council meetings, we'll probably be using those applications and seeking for applicants' notices. The great thing about the city website is that it sends text messages and emails, and it could be put on the front page of the city website. And click it and you start filling out the application.
Well, maybe in the stipulations, though, it could be something like new position will be fulfilled within 2 months or 6 weeks. I mean, we have to have a definite constructed date at which that position will be filled, because it gets lost in the quagmire and months could go by. I mean, that's
It
apparent.
has in the past, but I don't think it will.
But we'll continue advertising until we receive an application that city council will consider. And as far as, so like you said, how long will we be advertising? We're not going to leave a vacancy. We're going to continue advertising until someone applies. And we'll probably advertise even during city council meetings, encourage others, speak to your neighbors if you want to consider being on the board. But vacancies, the city will continue to seek for applicants until it's been completed. Now, the vacancy that opened, say it's in the middle of term, I keep referring to term, so I'm going to address that. You know how city council opens 3 terms and 2 terms, 3 terms, 2 terms? Boards and commissions are going to be made up of 5 members, just like the city council. Well, I'm sorry, 3 and 3. So mayor and it's going to be a staggered terms of 2 years following the election. So we'll have 3 vacancies and then 2 vacancies 1 year, and each member will be assigned a number, just as everybody here has one. And the vacancy that's completed or fulfilled will complete that term limit. So for instance, place 1, 3, and 5 will end in 2023, and I join the board as place 1. My term ends in 2023. Similar to what happened with you, Sam. You first became on city council. You ran you completed a term and then started a new one. That same process will start again. If there's any concerns about, well, how do we know people are going to apply when terms end? There is a section that identifies that city staff will begin advertising when a term is going to end for boards and commissions as well, 4 months prior to the expiration. And the terms will begin May 15th to May 14th. And they'll serve a full year.
So my thought on the missed 3 meetings, I think it's good to keep it the same way as city council, because it does allow, I mean, if you've got 3 months in a row where somebody has missed, the people on that board are going to know. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but you're going to know if somebody's just having health problems, and they're not going to recommend to the city council then to kick them off if they want to keep them on the board. But say you've got somebody who's just not coming, you know they're not interested, and that way it does help. It provides some kind of structure for the board to be able to recommend a new person to come on. And it gives them something, a rule to fall back on if they need to.
That's right.
To just vacate that spot so you can actually get somebody that's actually going to work. They've got a person on Parks Department that's been on there for a year that's never been to a meeting. And that's they're thinking, well, how do we remove that person? They haven't formally give a written notice that they want to quit, but they also aren't attending any of the meetings or participating in any way. So
that's right. And what we could do is a combination of that, where at the second absence, that a follow-up is done, sending them, they had to provide some form of phone number, email on the application. And so we could send them a, how are you doing email at the second absence.
So now that I'm thinking about it, if it's 3 consecutive, that's it.
just like city
Yeah.
council.
Just like city
3
council.
consecutive and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah. Because then there'll be more people all, yeah.
Appeal service. So there is,
But they can always,
They could come and
Right.
talk to the people that are on the board. If there's a legitimate reason why we're not able to attend. I mean, there has to be a humanitarian side component
Correct.
to it.
That can be
so
discussed.
where
Yeah.
are these rules?
oh, on the
Are
on the
these-
slides.
Where are these on the American League?
Oh.
they're not on the American-
No. These are,
Our own.
these are fresh. They're not on American
Brand
legal.
new. I mean, but.
Uh,
Oh, you mean for city council?
Ours
Where is
have an
it?
advisory board.
That's right. So that's a good point on how it would be structured on our city ordinances when they're codified, if they're ever codified.
So we're not rewriting what's already there. I mean, we
No,
are rewriting.
These are applicable to all boards and commissions. So
It says
each,
parts of- Oh, okay, I see.
It's gonna be like a preamble.
right. And so the first section is going to be a new chapter being boards and commissions, and then it's rules and procedures,
Real quick,
and then
all boards and commissions except planning and zoning, which is driven by the Texas code. We can't modify that portion of it, but to the extent it doesn't conflict with planning and zoning, it's fine, and we can do with all of the other boards exactly what we want to do.
that's right. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Yeah, P and Z has some different exemptions on this, and they have their own rules and procedures. And as stated, that's from the state.
Hey, I just want to mention, just for time's sake, because we
Yeah,
have 30
yeah.
more slides
I
to
know.
go
Let's
through.
get on.
And then if we have that much discussion on there, I know that they need to be discussed, but if we discuss that, we're gonna be here till way past
Yeah.
I agree.
So
midnight.
3 consecutive, you're out. That's pretty much
Okay.
it.
There's one thing that does radically change the board that has to be mentioned is that this draft states that it only is applicable, only applicants can only apply if they are part of the city limits.
Now, that is
That is a
that's
change.
problem for me.
Mhm.
That's a real problem for me. If you wouldn't discuss that now, we can't.
Well, I mean, we could just go through the slide, we
Yeah,
could
we
just
can go
go
through
through the slides, and then if
Yeah.
there's not any changes,
Yeah, I
let's
agree.
just go. If
Let's
there's
go.
a strikeout.
I got
then-
my notes right here. Go ahead.
All right, so identifies the responsibilities of city staff. It creates a relationship between city council's capacity to influence the boards and commissions. It creates the term limits and requirements, that being the residencies and whatnot, having to live in the city, statutory guidelines and operations, right? That they will meet once a month, that boards and commissions will meet in City Hall instead of people's homes, so that these meetings continue to be public, and that boards and commissions will follow the Opens Meetings Act to the best of their ability. Procedures, removal of office, it addresses how city council can remove any member at any time, and resignations, how to properly conduct a resignation, and how the city will address vacancies. There also will be an orientation and education section that the city administrator or designee will educate new board members about the city's ordinances, planning and zoning, environmental concerns, and so forth. So this is our current structure for boards and commissions in relation to city council. The planning and zoning is inside this bubble because, well, city council is planning and zoning. And it tells you the structure, who's in the governing body, city council, that being you guys. Planning and zoning is the city council. Historic Preservation Commission is Martindale residents. It does state that in the ordinance that you have to be a resident of Martindale to be on the Historic Commission. The Parks Advisory Board does not have any requirements or qualifications, so anybody can really be part of that board. Of course, all of these applications are considered by the city council. Now, the tricky one is the River Advisory Board. There's not a codified ordinance nor clear rules and definitions for the River Advisory Board. It technically doesn't exist.
We do have an ordinance.
There is a Word document that's not signed and with a missing
passed-
attachment.
We passed it and I have it in the minutes. I've already, if we look back in the minutes to when it happened,
I remember that.
it is, it is,
remember that.
there is an
Right.
ordinance.
It, however, the attachments and the definitions of it, it has not appeared. We worked with as many resources as we can in the city to find that, and it doesn't appear to be found. So
There,
it's not-
there is a sign, there's a signed ordinance.
And so what this,
Can you,
remember how Jared found it, but it's an unsigned copy and there's that attachment
We need to
B.
address that then, if that's the
Oh.
case.
That
It
was-
needs to be addressed.
and then
It's-
I just deleted
So it
all
was
my,
never codified.
That's
Right. And so it doesn't exist right now
Oh.
on the city's code of ordinances. At the end of this attachment, there is a new board, a new definitions in terms of the River Advisory Board and what they will be overseeing and what kind of recommendations they'll be making to the city council.
Do you think anybody else on the River Advisory Board has a copy of that ordinance that you signed? Matthew, do you
I've
have?
seen it. I know I've seen it because I remember when I first got it, I'd have to ask Joy.
yeah.
If it could be found, that'd be great. That'd help the city a
And then
lot.
I just deleted all my emails because I was getting the red and it kept telling me to delete all my emails, so I emptied out my whole. So, but I know that we do have an ordinance. We did pass the ordinance.
Right. And there's a Word document of it, but just not
It's
signed.
not a Word document. We
Right.
signed it.
Right.
It's signed here. We signed it here.
And Rob mentioned the same thing, and this has been a reoccurring issue about the signed copy of the River Advisory Board. Now, for the time being, we did create a provisional River Advisory Board rules and scope of work. Now, I've gone through these already. What will the rules and procedures consist of for all advisory boards except for the Planning and Zoning Commission? Application process, appointments, memberships, roles and duties, titles, requirements to be on the board, term limits, meeting policies. If there's any questions on that. This on,
I
Rules and
have a little
procedures.
question. So on, whenever you were talking about the committees, did we get input from the committees themselves?
Yes.
They were able to look over this item.
Well, not this.
not this draft. This is why we're doing a workshop so that we can give and distribute to everybody.
So I think in the past with the Parks Advisory Committee, at least, that several applications to be on the committee was submitted to the committee, and then the committee advised the city council on who they would recommend to be on the committee. And then the city council voted on, say, two different people and which one got the most votes.
The way that will work for applications is that someone turns in an application, the city will hold it for a year. If we hold it for a year, when it comes to reappointment of positions, city council will have an opportunity to review it. If there's no word back, then the application is terminated. Now, city council will have to decide on one of those applications at the end of the day, which would be will be on May 15th, the day that terms are going to begin again.
And then the city council votes.
That's right. City council is going to decide on the application. And they'll be submitted in order. So whoever submits the first one will be.
So it's just like we've been doing it.
Whoever's terms are up.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same
have to be
thing.
reapproved.
Reapproved if they resubmit. We'll offer them the opportunity to resubmit an application. But the notification process of open applications begins 4 months prior. So if applications are, or if term limits begin May 15th, that means we'll start notifying the public in January.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that they're automatically re-approved.
No, but so that
Probably will be, but.
we hope to see returning members, and especially with their experience.
So does the check in River Circle mean anything?
Yes, so since we don't have if you look at the last slide, there's a question mark.
No.
Because we don't have what their scope of responsibilities are.
Mhm.
Now that they have been defined with the pages, I believe pages 9 through 11, the responsibilities of the River Advisory Board. That's why it has a check mark. At least we have something to go by.
From that board document.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for all your work on this.
So if it's in gray, that means something, and if it's crossed out, that means something?
So the crossed out is redundancies. So there is a section that says that boards will meet under for instance, the Historic Commission. There's a section that says boards will meet once a month if there is business. That's been removed because it's already addressed in the rules and procedures.
And what does it mean if it's in light gray?
Just things that I thought City Council might want to take a look at. And
Additions.
it's just my recommendation for you to really consider.
Okay. Well, even if, say, the Historic Committee does not meet, do they still, as a policy, email you and say, nothing came up to our attention this month, or just does a month pass and they don't communicate? What happens?
So there's always going to be business because this comprehensive plan section creates business for them. The city has a ton of strategic priorities we want to see satisfied, approved by the City Council when the plan was approved. And so we would ask boards and commissions to work with the comprehensive plan, supporting the city staff and the desires of the City Council.
There's more to the Historic Commission than just approving whether or not they follow the, their.
Certificate of profits.
Yes.
They could create their own master
There's a lot
plan.
more to it.
There's a lot of different responsibilities a board can create or pursue. They're clearly defined, but they're not being followed.
Come up with the,
Right.
I know, just even come up with something with the history of Lawndale.
That's right.
There's more to it.
And
And that's
actually,
stuff
they've
that we
been
worked on when
doing
you
that.
were-
We just haven't, well, thank you, but they've been doing that a lot because like this building that Mari's renovating, it's designated a federal landmark, I believe.
And it does state where, if say the board doesn't meet, even though they're required to meet, the chair must still provide a report to the City Council once a month. If the chair fails to do that, that means they're failing at the responsibilities assigned as chair. And that should be that situation should create some attention for City Council. It should raise some red flags for City Council. And they won't get them terminated, but City Council can terminate any board member at their choosing.
So it could be verbally, monthly, expressed to City Council verbally or in written form?
That's right.
Okay.
It's just like how we typically do now. Any other questions on the rules and procedures of the comments, opinions, concerns? Things that they would like to see removed or applied?
So the comprehensive plan, we'll talk more about later. That's just something that you brought up, and we'll talk more about that later.
I think that should be enough.
It's not very, it's one
Start out.
paragraph. It's just if there's a master plan, they should follow it.
Okay.
All right, so that concludes, if there's no any other questions or comments, that concludes the section for rules and procedures of the Parks Advisory Board.
Okay.
Now we'll follow along with the planning and zoning and its residents.
So you don't want to go through this?
Oh, yes.
Instead of having an annual report,
Mhm.
I would like to hear from them every month.
It's stated that it will report every month, but then a comprehensive report evaluating the work they've done the last year.
You mentioned about meeting here in City Hall.
Mhm.
You would be the participant director of the meetings?
The city administrator or a designee. So it could be me, it could be Lee, it could be a utility clerk. I started working with the Parks Advisory Board as a utility clerk, as designated. Obviously, that reflects well on an employee's motivation and initiative, and hopefully be considered in a performance evaluation or appraisal.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. There you
Well,
go.
hint, hint.
Hey, you're pretty good. You're learning quickly, buddy.
I did mention a few.
Yeah.
So it provides more consistency, I guess.
I agree, because it makes it more public, so. if
Yeah,
people-
because
They
we,
know exactly where they're gonna meet and when they're gonna meet.
Now,
So they are gonna have a designated day and
That's right.
time
Mhm,
that they're gonna meet.
that's right.
what about
And if
sometime,
it can change.
Yeah, but
Accordingly,
meet a
but-
month, meet once a month.
what about sometime if the river committee I have seen sometimes meets outside on the grass over there? Now, is that permitted anymore, or you're just saying in the structure of this?
In the structure of this, of the city council chambers, it's stated in here that they will meet in section E5, that they'll meet in this room.
That sounds good.
The idea of that is also that we could do Zoom.
There you go. Somebody can
Right, plus you have
attend.
the
Perfect.
equipment.
Okay,
needs.
So if they know,
Yeah.
yeah, they
I agree.
are as much inclusion as we can get.
It's perfect.
okay.
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 Do you have any
So
comments?
do you want
from
to go
Matthew
through
or
these gray
anything? Yeah,
sections in
okay.
here before we move on to?
I
guess
believe
the
I
only
mentioned
other-
them.
That, the only gray I see just for the,
Well, I got a comment.
is
Keep
the
going.
boards and commissions.
All right.
Each
Keep
month,
going,
and
buddy.
the
How does everybody
commission
feel?
Meeting shall
I got a comment. Keep going.
All right,
be held.
Not to be long-winded
Okay, yes.
here.
Okay, those two.
awesome. Thank you. All right, so the next section is going to be planning and zoning and its residents. There's no changes in the ordinances needed for this section. It's already written out and in our code of ordinances. But this is a follow-up from the last council meeting of what has been done in cities around, is a follow-up to the conversation of how a separate planning and zoning commission would look like if it was resident-based. Now, here's a structure of what that will look like. The parks, I would like to just make a quick statement, is in the ordinance, it states that the Parks Advisory Board will provide recommendations to city council and planning and zoning. It is not it's not defined in the rest of,
So why would Parks be the only one reporting to planning and zoning? Why not the rest of them?
it's what in our code of ordinances at the moment.
Parks.
Yeah,
Well, there was no river when that was written.
Right.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
There's no other provision that says that the historic should report also or make recommendations to the P and Z.
Personally in the planning and zoning, going in the past, River Advisory's been more involved in the Parks Committee.
Yeah.
Development, impervious cover, floodway, that kind of.
Land use.
Yeah.
And we could, at the end of that draft, it's the new responsibilities of the river.
We should put Parks and River Advisory together, reporting to planning and zoning.
I'm gonna address that in a minute, but this is right now if city council separated itself from the P and Z. It's not a complete separation. City council will have still a majority say in most P and Z related items. But this is what it will look like. Now, the next one is, you guys asked me to report to you what is commonly done in the neighborhood. So all other, all cities like Lockhart, Luling, New Braunfels, and San Marcos, and even larger cities like San Antonio and Austin require that P and Z be consistent with only residents of within its jurisdiction. So nobody from the ETJ can be part of the P and
Adrian,
Z.
do you mind if I intervene briefly on this?
Please.
Sure.
One of the biggest issues that you see with the cities that you mentioned, Adrian, those are the vast majority of those are home rule municipalities. And so the difference is we may only do what is consistent with the general laws of the state of Texas. But most of those cities can go out and do a lot more. They have freedom to do things that are above and beyond what's set forth in the general laws of the state of Texas, but only if they don't violate the laws.
Right.
The-
And
what we need to practically think about in terms of bifurcating E and Z and council is that it has been an arduous workload for the city council to do the planning and zoning work also. And with the new shot clock law in Texas, and I've run into this in other cities, we would then be required for all of these platting, subdivision, zoning issues to have that first meeting and then that second meeting within 30 days. And there's been times where it's been difficult for us to get things scheduled and get the bodies there and make it happen. And what this can end up resulting in is that failure to act by P&Z can result in some degree of deemed approval. I'm not saying that it's not possible, but I would want to gauge the pulse of the community and the desire of citizens to take on this role before making the decision to have a separate planning and zoning commission. Because while with the other commissions, there is a lot of latitude in how and when they meet and what they do, that latitude and discretion does not exist with planning and zoning. And if we don't get bodies there, if there are missteps and things happening, if people don't show up, that can have real impactful consequences for approval of plats, subdivision, zoning, etc. So just be mindful of that. I'm not saying that it's not a good idea, but think very long and hard about what that impact could be.
okay.
I'm gonna add my 2 cents worth here. Examples of Lockhart, Luling, New Braunfels, they're a lot larger city than we are. A lot larger. It's a lot more issues with planning and zoning. And by the way, Lee is doing an excellent job with getting these packages together. I think at this particular point with the city, I think the status quo
I'll
is
echo
pretty
the
good.
sentiment on Lee. He does a good job. He does.
Yeah, so he's made it really easy for me being the chairperson. He spells it all out for me. And he knows exactly what's going on. He can inform me. I have a meeting with him. And I can say, we don't have that type of growth yet. Now, I think this conversation could be done at a later date if the city starts growing monumentally. But at this point, what I like about having the council being on the Planning and Zoning Commission is, first of all, we're involved with discussions with Lee. And Lee can give us all the detail and all that kind of stuff. And what I like about it is we're elected officials. And if we are on planning and zoning and we do something that our citizens don't like, they vote us out of office. Whereas if you have a commission or a board, they're not held accountable to the voters, whereas we would be. And I think that's an important point for me personally.
There, to some degree, yes and no on the last statement, where city council can still remove members who are not being cooperative, who are failing to attend meetings or to be attentive to these very important issues.
So I'm just saying, I think it's a little bit,
You guys still, at the end of the day, approve the decisions made by a citizen-led commission. There's this guarantee of performance, and this is directly from the Code of Ordinances, that decisions will be approved by the city council.
Yes, but are they gonna be improved on time?
That's the issue
Somebody
that.
comes up with a huge development
So you're concerned.
agreement.
I know where you're going on this.
And,
Yeah.
and we don't.
Oh.
And we don't have it approved in time, then it goes through.
Well,
So here's the responsibilities that city
Yeah.
council will still have, which are
That was
development
your kind of-
agreements. Both P and Z and city council will review development packets. And all these responsibilities of approved plats and preliminary plats and our final approved plats are still considered by city council. And all denied decisions by the P and Z can be appealed to the city council. But Kent does bring a very good point of members failing to attend. You know, we're depending on a group of applicants that say they're going to do and perform their duties, But it very well could be where we just have a board that only meets on issues they care about.
Well, if they didn't have a quorum, then they would miss the meeting that month and they'd have to reschedule it. And as we said, we have that strict confined
days.
deadline of 1 month.
Mhm.
Did Matt, I think Matthew had a comment.
But yeah, so if the P and Z, if you have an independent P and Z, and they can approve a plat, the city council doesn't even review that at that point.
Guarantee of performance.
So they still have to vote on it again. So what you're doing is the 30-day rule is what you're concerned about. And I understand that. So the P and Z is going to make the 30-day rule locked in, hopefully, where they're going to at least have that first hearing and we're going to get over that threshold. But even if they vote one way or the other, the meeting, the council still has to vote on it and approve it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, if it gets denied, it's up to the applicant to submit an appeal to the building official for the city council to review. Now, the last few P and Z items, the applicants have not appealed. So say the first Lanzola project, it was denied, but they chose not to appeal to city council. We could have gone through the whole process again, but they know they're dealing with the same people. An additional responsibility of the P and Z is to review violations that are appealed. So if Lee goes out, so say those yellow notices that you asked me about, if someone believes that it's not justified, that they have been convicted or cited incorrectly, they can appeal to the P and Z, and city council will have to listen out to that appeal. That if it is a citizen-led, city council does not have to sit through that appeal process. Now,
All right. Well, I mean, this is something that could be, written down but not implemented, but when the city's ready for it.
but it's already written down. I did not write anything on the P and Z.
So I think it's like good, like our attorney said, is to get a feel for what our community thinks. Maybe just put it out there like a survey. What do you think about a, citizen-led planning and zoning? Or, are you happy with the city council? And just take a community survey.
Well, one of the issues is talent.
Yeah, exactly, talent.
Talent pool, do we have enough people that are willing?
I know we have a hard time having people even get on board.
And we can,
I think we're way ahead of ourselves
And
personally.
we have 6 that show up all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
One is-
We'd probably
whereas it's gonna-
have to have rules on what you would have to, like, what is your background and
Right.
everything. So that you'd have it'd be like a job interview kind of thing to be on the P and Z. It wouldn't just be for anybody.
yeah, there is a
Yeah.
submissions and, we could set requirements for them to have, certain backgrounds and experiences. And if we fail to say we have those 5 term limits or 6, because it's P and Z, 5. And we fail to fill in all those vacancies, then city council will just assume as P and Z.
Right.
If there's a incomplete board.
And could city council be on P and Z,
There-
like one person?
You can't simultaneously serve in both roles if the city council decides to have a separate planning and zoning commission. But a quick point, if there are ordinance violations, that's going to go directly to the municipal court. That's not going to be something that's going to be heard or considered. That's not going to be heard and considered by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So appeals of, not necessarily the penalty and all that, but say they believe they've been incorrectly, not cited, but notified that they need to clean their yard. The ordinance is.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yes?
right. If someone is cited for an ordinance violation by the city, that is automatically going to go to the municipal court. That's an ordinance violation. And then what will happen is they'll get their citation. They'll either comply with the citation And if they don't comply with the citation, then what will end up happening is a court date will be set and they'll come talk to me and if need be, go before Tony.
So are you saying that this section that we have in our ordinance is contradictory to that? I mean, that is basically
I don't know what section what section is it you're referring to?
9153, whenever it is determined that there are reasonable grounds to believe that there has been a violation of any provision of this chapter or of any rule or regulations adopted pursuant thereto, notice of such alleged violations shall be given to the owner, lien holder, and mortgagee, and such alleged violations shall be constituted of a nuisance. And this is basically fine. I'm not saying that they're being convicted, but say those notices of warnings that you need to clean your yard.
Correct.
It's not you're not being cited, but you're asked to comply with the city ordinances.
Well, at this point in time, Lee and Tommy and Bud are already involved with that, but the commission's not, we're not really involved with that at all at this point in time.
Yeah.
There would be two potential ways that would shake out. So the city is allowed to give a friendly notice before issuing a citation, notifying the property owner or the lien holder or the mortgagee or the land. I mean, whoever needs to be identified. The city can identify all necessary parties of a violation. They can do that in the form of a pre-citation letter or notice, and if there is not compliance, then a citation can be issued for violation of an ordinance, or a petition can be filed in municipal court or in county court or district court. So there's any number of ways that this could be handled based on severity. But I don't think it's something that necessarily would implicate any serious duty on behalf of planning and zoning, unless we were talking about a zoning issue. We were talking about a platting issue, a subdivision issue, something along those lines.
And that the 91.53, Adrian, if you scroll up a little bit on the screen, you'll notice that's under substandard structures, unsafe buildings.
Right, but you would provide a warning to them.
Lee's deal. Yeah.
Exactly. And it assigns a responsibility to P&Z. But anyways, I'll forward everybody this section and review it.
Okay.
Getting out of it, we're getting out of.
We are. Getting off
Let's
track.
go to the next one.
I'll forward this, Kent, to you and ask for your interpretation of it then. All right, so.
Perfect. That would be good. Thanks.
Let me bring this up again. But as it sounds, maybe we should wait on this P&Z and residents.
I agree.
We kind of went forward because the last meeting
Right.
we asked and everybody seemed excited about
So
it.
this is what it will look like if it did happen. But yeah, again, there's the whole purpose of the workshop to receive your concerns and thoughts on it
Yeah.
before putting it on city council as a whole document. Now, there's a few pros and cons. I've sent this presentation to you guys in your email. I recommend you guys take a look at it. But we'll move on. Now, the combination of the Parks and River Board. There has been a frequent discussion of how this will be addressed. Now, I did do a comparison on page 47 of your agenda packet of what that will look like, what are responsibilities that both boards oversee. Since we don't have a clearly defined responsibilities in our code of ordinances for the River Advisory Board, I used the draft attached at the end of the packet here. And if you guys would take a moment to read them through and see what you guys think. I'm talking about the comparison.
We're going to talk about combining the two.
Yeah. So the left is the responsibilities of the Parks Advisory Board. The right is the responsibilities of the River Advisory Board. It's on page 47 on your tablets.
Okay, I've said this many times before. San Marcos has a parks board, period.
Let's just,
River
Review them.
and parks are combined as one. We already have problems filling these positions. I think it'd be good to combine the two because the parks, most people that go to the parks go to the river. So they're all interrelated. That's my
this
opinion.
is good a few minutes and look
Yeah.
over the
Look over.
list.
I'll look through it all. I did look through it, so.
But I thought, I mean, we've already had this
Yeah, we
discussion.
have.
And then y'all have already approached the committees and had their insight. And then I mean, you've already gotten input from them. They've already, said what they're gonna say. And frankly, I mean, like, if you do end up combining them, then the River Advisory Board would also have a 25,000 budget to use from also.
Well, that $25,000 budget is not a line item designated to the Parks Advisory Board. It is a city expense. They have no authority. They can't vote essentially on a financial decision. They can make recommendations.
Well, they would.
We think you should spend it this way.
Recommendations.
And all boards can make recommendations of how they think city money should be
But
spent.
the River Advisory Board has had goose egg since they have been in existence.
There's no
But
fund.
There's no river fund, but what would a river fund be used on? It's just a bit, for planning and zoning.
Education.
That's why you combine the two. They both have the same funds.
They don't own the funds.
I mean, what I'm saying is the budget could be the river, and I keep saying this over and over again, the river and the parks are interconnected. They're the same because the river is connected to the parks. I'm just saying what the city of San Marcos does.
Well, I'll just make a few distinctions between the left and the right.
Yeah, we only got one board. We got two. That's my point. That's my whole point.
Let Adrian.
I'm sorry.
So the advisory board on the left recommends recreational activities, how to maintain city-owned property, facilities and equipments like the soccer goals, and oversee or try to recommend recreation activities on its city, make recommendations to comprehensive and master plans, recommend the utilization of received funds on city's real property facilities and equipment for parks, recreation facilities, and recreation activities. Now, on the right-hand side, if you look at the page 10 and 11 on sections D and E. It's
About the Parks Advisory Board responsibilities, I think the one word that's missing there is volunteering. Is that in the past, when like, say, Susan Smith was in charge of the board and then I overseed countless monthly volunteer programs. And that's what really helped with the maintenance of the parks that was lacking with the comprehensiveness of cohesiveness of the city. So either we're going to have that as a component of the Parks Advisory Board volunteering, it should be. But if it's too much, then we won't, and we need a separate organization of a volunteer type thing, because that's something that's completely lacking.
Like the river
So
already has volunteers.
Yeah, we did a cleanup last year. I mean,
Well, I mean, then it's lacking in the Parks Board.
That's why you combine.
So this is,
Okay.
I'm following, that list is basically a copy paste of what's written on here, on the
Okay.
Parks Advisory Board's ordinance.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, add.
But that's a
the
good
word volunteering.
recommendation to add to their scope of work is volunteer work. But at the moment, it's not explicitly listed on the ordinance for parks responsibilities and,
If it could possibly.
but yes, it could
All I'm
be
saying.
added on there. Now, for the River Advisory Board, if you would refer to page 10 and 11, sections D and E, take a moment to read those through. It's the right-hand side heavily depends on that. I'll give you guys like 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
So it starts with D on page 10?
D and E, yes.
And then E on page 11.
Yeah.
TJ, so it says it's if we stand here. Membership. Yeah. well, then why does it
That's a
say-
different point. Wait for that point.
Now, with this draft of the River Advisory Board and their responsibilities, a lot of it relates to land use, public safety, and the well-being of the water and the life around us. And I heard you guys mention the ETJ. Like you guys mentioned, we're concerned about the houses that could fall into the river affecting our neighbors downstream. And that's why those considerations, and the River Advisory Board has been very vocal about what affects us upriver, what happens upriver affects Martindale, and what happens in Martindale affects what happens downriver.
It affects our parks.
That's right.
So it
That's right.
needs to be in the members
yeah,
need to
what
be
I
in the
think-
ETJ.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The monitoring is any wastewater plants as an example that are coming or going to eventually come, and how it affects us, as a city, because the parks do not look at that.
No, and then whenever y'all have your meeting, you spend that whole time dedicated to discussing issues as such.
Yeah. ours is
And
just-
it's the
yeah.
whole time.
And so, both boards could get combined and they would just have all those responsibilities. You could just stack these ones on top of
But
the other.
Adrian, like for their time is valuable. They spend their whole time talking about river issues. They don't want to talk about the playground. They don't want to talk about the mulch. They don't want to talk about the swings. They don't want to talk about the parking cement chains that go on there. They don't want to talk about the kiosk. They want to talk about the river.
And that's just one part. What he's pointing out is both of them are coming back to like impervious cover
Mhm.
and
They're related.
things that are related to planning and
What do you think?
zoning issues.
Yeah, I mean,
Park guy, park guy.
River Advisory Board is certainly concerned with planning and zoning issues. And
I have-
I'm just-
Lately, a lot.
the
Yeah,
reason why this has been a struggle in the past about distinguishing the river, the concern about the River Advisory Board is that we can't find documentation. What is their scope of work? I mean, if someone can give me on the verbiage used of that signed ordinance, that would help us a lot. But we don't have that. So
So
we have to
then-
start from scratch.
why does it always have to be like, have the river? Why not take away the parks and have it the river board only? Why does it always have to be the river board has to come in with the parks? Why not let it be the main river?
I think we were gonna call it something else like environmental.
The environmental board, if you were to combine it, and then the recreation, because a lot of our recreation is centered around the river.
Parks are the river.
We have all these can bans because of their recreation
I mean, we have something on
Created.
the parks board right here. What do you think?
river board.
I'm sorry,
I
river board.
like the fact that there's so many people involved.
Exactly.
That there
Yeah.
are, because it is two committees, that there's that many people involved. And there are some people that are not in the city limits that have skill sets that are important to us. Virginia Parker being obviously one of them.
Mhm.
And if you were to combine them, they would, the definition, by definition, as I read it, they have to be a citizen. Potentially.
Well, we're
the
gonna
city.
talk, we're gonna talk about
Yeah,
that.
and
That's
then
my
we would
point.
lose Virginia Parker. as a member.
That's what I wanna talk about. That's my big point.
So.
We're gonna talk about membership.
We would lose her.
Well, I
as a
wanna
member.
discuss that, sir.
Yeah.
That's a point for me. If we wanna go to that point, that's a big point.
Well, we would lose Steve Fonda.
No, let me figure.
We would lose all these people
Let
on
me,
the
let me
river.
finish. I made a point. Let's go to C membership right now.
So that,
Let's go right
we're
to it.
discussing that was in the.
Okay, I'm just saying, we
Yeah,
talked
we could
about.
talk about membership if you guys like. We had to go back a few slides, but sure, if you guys want to discuss about membership, we
Should
can.
we finish the presentation?
Let's continue. Now, I've established the differences between both boards. I believe that everybody understands that the left is talking about recreation, the right's talking about land use and protection of.
And recreation.
Um,
Whatever, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So what it'll look like if we were to create this combination today, that was the only change made, is that right now Historic Parks and River Advisory Board respond to the City Council, which is also the P and Z. the transition would only have 2 boards responding to the city council. That's what the organization of it would look like. That makes sense?
It does.
Now, and Kent I might need some of Kent's attention on this. So there was a thought of if we were to have awesome. If we were to separate the P&Z to a resident-oriented commission, would you guys rather see only residents or also instead have all chairs of the advisory boards, if they're combined or not, of these 3 advisory boards, members of the P&Z to represent
Those boards.
the interests of the historic, the interests of the parks, and the interests of the river, or the interests of the environment. And the way that would look like is the following slide. It would be a 7-member board where 4 residents and 3 chairs. The chairs would have to accurately represent their board or commission in the P&Z meetings, and their priorities is for their boards. They're there to represent parks, historic, and river. And we have a majority vote of residents. It's an interesting thought that Jared and I came up with.
It makes it very complicated. I think that makes it extremely complicated.
But they're very interested, I mean, with all of this stuff with
Right.
Zola, with impervious cover, with all of the recommendations they've been making. And on the flip side, with the way the community doesn't want the town necessarily to grow, then if that's the case, then we've got to have something.
Well, I
a
would
reason
say,
for
I
people to
disagree
come
about grow.
inside
I
the
totally
city.
disagree with grow.
No, but
Grow
you've even
responsible.
said that to me. You don't want the town. to
No,
grow.
I never said it wanted to grow responsible. Grow is a
Anyway,
vague
to
term.
finish my thought
I'm sorry.
was, if we don't necessarily want the town to grow, then the way that we can get more revenue is to bring in the neighborhoods that already exist.
Exactly.
The only way to do that is to give them a reason for coming into the city.
Yeah. So that membership issue leads to that.
Let's talk.
I mean, if they're influencing our policy, and they're using staff members' time, that is taxpayer money that a member of the PTA
That they're
is not
getting-
contributing.
Well, Libby, you ready for my speech? I've been waiting for an last hour to talk about this. Okay?
Yeah.
Can I go?
I mean, yeah, at any time.
We're talking about city membership. We have a hard time filling people with due boards anyway. And you want to encourage these neighborhoods to come in, but you're making it, I mean, they're gonna have to pay $1,200-$1,500 more a year in property tax. We should be offering things like law enforcement,
Oh, that would.
but
be
I'm just
part of it.
saying, but I think because right now, I will say this though, when it comes to like the river committee, these people that are on that river committee live in ETJ, and what we do will affect them on their property. So I think they have a right to be on a board, okay? Because you're gonna lose it, like Mr. Matthews said here, we're gonna lose a really good talent pool of people. And I think that's a bad way to try to encourage somebody to come in our city limits by saying, well, if you don't come in and pay $1,500 a year, we're not gonna let you be able to board. Instead of saying, you know what, we can offer you excellent police protection, we could protect your ETJ, try to encourage them in a positive way to come in. That to me is an aggressive way to say, well, if you can't be involved in our boards because you don't live at our city limits. But meanwhile, you live on the river, and what we do affects the river, affects their property.
Well, this is just something that's being put forward. The
Okay.
city council will eventually decide what they want to do. And I think that Adrian has put together an excellent presentation. And these are things that we've been struggling with, frankly, all year, that we've been talking back and forth. and finally decide, let's go to the city council, let's put it in a workshop, let's get what they want to
Okay,
talk
I mean,
about, instead of just putting together a document and then saying, okay, vote this up or down.
no, I like the document. Hey, this is the only, really, that is the only thing.
Yeah,
I
the
have against
membership.
whole. That's the only thing I have against the document, that one, the one.
That was the initial purpose of why there's people in the ETJ in the forest. Although the city does have a very good momentum getting its recognition from the Lanzola project. Whether or not, I know the city council got praise of the turnout and that the Lanzola project did not go through. But we have members in the ETJ interested in our policy, and it's a way to invite them in.
And see,
And they
Yes.
came to the meeting,
Right.
after the people that came were all from the River Ranch.
but see, I can also say, I could just say that I'm just totally appalled. And I think like putting an emphasis, like taking the river out of the river advisory board and taking that away and putting it with environmental, I would say like, that just, it blows my mind because Martindale is known for its river and its river advocacy and our love of the water and what it is. And I think that to take the river name away from the River Advisory Board, it would be a very bad look for Martindale. It would be, and it would definitely come back to bite the city in the behind.
I don't think we got too much push for the environmental, so you can see as river.
Yeah, but I mean, Martindale has been known for that. Martindale was invited to the River Symposium event to talk about our river advocacy that's going on here. The board has done an excellent job in what they've been doing in their discussions and their focus and their love and their passion. And if you don't have love and passion for something and you're spending an hour talking about a playground when what they want to talk about is water quality and what's going on in the environment, that takes away from an individual and their capability of what they're able to do for the city for free.
Can I ask just real quick? Do you like the descriptions mentioned in the proposed draft for the river advisory?
Yeah. I've got no problem with
Do
it.
you like them?
What do you guys think? Because at the end of the day, titles and such, these are the
I've got no
responsibilities.
problem with that. Like I said, I've got no problem with any of it except for membership, item number 2.
Yeah, I mean, we could call boards whatever we want, but as long as their responsibilities and the topics that they'll be addressed is classified on our ordinances, that's what counts. And, environmental, river, call it what you want. I mean, as long as you guys are, I would, like Jan and Sam, what do you guys think too about?
Well, I had a question. Okay, there's 5 members on the river committee.
Yeah.
There's what, 6 members? No, 6 on the river and 5 in the park.
There's 7 on the river.
7 on the river.
So that's
Well, there's really
12.
Only 6, but someone doesn't show up.
So what, if you combine those 2, you'd have, what constitutes a quorum?
Yeah.
If you have 11, or is there
There
going to
wouldn't
be
be
less?
11.
So,
There'd be 5.
yeah, right now, the rules and procedures, it states that there will be 5 members unless defined otherwise. Now,
The 2
you guys can define,
Now,
it could be 5, it could be 7, it could be
I
9.
would like, okay, to be fair to everyone, if we combine those 2 commissions, we need to increase the members to allow people that have already want to be involved.
No, you can have friends, like friends of the park, friends of the, that's.
I gotta- But,
And
okay.
if you leave it at 5, if you get it too big, it makes it difficult to have
The library
meetings or,
survives. That the Friends of the Library.
yeah, friends of the library. and
But the
that's
Friends
what's
of the
best.
Library like books. The Friends of the Library are interested in the library and books, and that's what
We
the,
need Friends of the Park and we need Friends of the River.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm flexible.
We can invite that.
Feel about the
At the end of the day, they are still influencing policy.
having.
The votes that the boards and commissions make
Right?
influence policy,
That's to me.
regardless of
That's the biggest part.
friends and buddies and whatnot.
I'm a flexible.
They
member.
don't influence policy. They just sit in the audience and talk. But at the end of the day, if a board member the board is going to make a vote that this is the recommended policy for river protection. the Friends of the Parks are not included, so we could forget that. I mean,
Right.
what counts at the end of the day is what reported to the city council on recommendations of policy, which the voting members of the advisory boards and commissions make. So 5 or 7, 9, it's up to you guys, but it's still, the power is in the boards and commissions of recommendations.
I just sort of am listening to what Sonia's saying too, that if you combine the river and the parks, unless you have an agenda that's sort of scaled down, those meetings could take a long time.
Like our city council meeting.
Those meetings could
Night.
take a
And did you
long
see these
time.
right here? Everything that they're supposed to be, like, discussing, they use their total time to talk about issues
Yeah, I'm
of the
flexible
river.
on that.
And our meetings, I will tell you, we're an hour and 15, we're done in an hour and a half. We're an hour and 15, we're very, very structured. We do not spend too much time on anything. We're very, very
Let
structured.
me ask your opinion. Would you be against or for combining the park? and
At
the
this
river?
point, if it requires citizenship, I don't,
No, that's a separate issue.
I don't think so. Right now, I think you should leave it the way it is because there's too much going on.
Okay, okay.
And I just think the river, the parks have stuff to catch up on.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I'm flexible
I
on
think
that.
there's still stuff that they're trying to catch up on and just change of stuff going on. And the river, we've got a lot of stuff that's coming up on this,
Okay.
Matthew, since you're the chair, what do you think about the roles
I
and
like it.
responsibilities?
Yeah, no, it's excellent.
I had no problem. The document's perfect except for that one item. That's it. That's the only
Because
problem I have.
this conversation keeps bouncing from combining boards and then the responsibilities of the boards. And
I really liked your idea on planning and zoning, and putting the chair, because that gives, the people on the planning and zoning, people on these committees a vote. Now the caveat though is the person that is the chair has got to be a citizen.
that's the thing, you can't be a chair if you're not a resident.
Yeah, I mean, and I totally
Yeah, that's,
agree with
and
that. You know what I mean? But
That's a good compliment.
It was a good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
do you guys want to, would you like to see that written out where it's residents and chairs? Or just residents, or just leave it as a city council? Again, I did state that the
I don't
city
think
council
you're
will
gonna
still
get it.
review P and Z related items.
That's what I'm gonna come up with.
I'm very concerned about getting this.
I agree. That's what I'm.
Look, I mean, no offense. I moved here a year and a half ago. Name me someone other than the people in this room who's been to more city council meetings.
You're right.
I have more better attendance than someone who's not here, okay?
Yeah.
All right? And I'm just telling you,
Well, I
that's part of
think
it.
that you can't say we can't do something because we don't think we're gonna get people. I mean, that's kind of a negative thought. The city council either needs to decide that they want to do it or they don't want to do it, but not on the basis of we can't get the people.
Because
Because I think if
I
we
agree.
go out there, we will find.
I agree with you, but the issue is, why are they not on Zoom? Why are they not here?
oh, they're on Zoom. I see the same
How many
people.
people are on Zoom tonight?
I see.
Charlie's on.
Charlie's on, Dorothy's on, user something is on.
Carol's on.
Hey, Dorothy.
Carol's typically on, but she's sick, and there's Ken. I mean, I do see at the beginning of meetings, I see the same people.
Okay.
They drop out eventually.
I want to say one more thing and I'm done. Okay, back to the membership. I would agree to this. It says in order, I got the glasses, got 2 pairs here. Okay. I'd say in order to be qualified to serve, all applicants for boards and commissions must live in the ETJ. Now, that would be acceptable to me, because if they're in the ETJ, what we do would affect them. So I would be apt for that.
But
I wonder when it got
would you vote
changed.
someone on who wasn't? Would you vote someone even on the committee if they weren't?
But I'm just saying, we're talking about the.
I understand, but
You said residents and
No,
ETJ.
I meant, say, take that out. I'm just saying ETJ, well, for
What number is that?
memberships.
Membership.
All, in order to be qualified on advisory boards, let's see page 1.
C2.
C,
Yeah, C2.
Yeah,
C2, yeah.
C2, if you just say, You can say must reside in the ETJ.
And be a resident.
And resident.
Or be a
No,
resident
just
of the
ET.
city.
Then you can't have residents on boards.
Huh?
You would have to
Don't
include,
say okay,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
you
Residents
obliterated
and
residents.
ETJ. Right, okay.
Put
right.
residents
I
I'll
didn't,
stand corrected.
okay.
Yeah, of course you want residents in there. That's a mistake.
Well, but you didn't say.
I made a mistake. I'm not perfect.
You know what? There are Abbott and Costello.
Who's on
On the
first?
city council.
what's
I
on
just love
second?
y'all.
We had that. Who's on
We're not
first?
getting law tonight, are we, Sam? That's my mistake.
Oh,
Of
man.
course you want
That
residents.
shows I'm listening.
You guys need to get your makeup later.
Okay,
I'm listening to you.
residents.
I just wonder when it got changed, because when I got on the historic commission years ago, you had to be you had to be a resident of the city.
Okay,
Well, it says that right now.
now historic, I agree. You know what? Historic, it should be a resident.
It says
We want
Oh.
to.
Okay, that helps.
must be,
Yeah, historic committee should be a resident.
the city.
I agree.
Isn't that the requirement right now?
Or you say
That is a
they
requirement right
shouldn't
now.
be?
But so it doesn't change.
Because the historic district is
Yeah,
only in
it's
the
in the city
confines of the
limits.
city
Yeah,
limits.
that should be residents only. Y'all agree with that?
Yeah.
Right, For
Yes.
sure. Now, parks, I don't know. We could talk about that.
Is there anyone on the Parks Committee that is not inside the city?
Angela, I don't know if Anita Gonzalez does.
No,
She's-
she lives over on Anderson Lane.
That's not in the city limits, right?
No,
And we have in the
that's
past,
in Guadalupe County.
where Ms. Walker
Okay.
did not live in the city limits. I don't even think she lived in the ETJ, but she was on the board.
let's keep, I would say keep residents and people in ETJ for the parks. Since people from in our area use the parks in ETJ.
Now, what,
I don't know.
Probably-
We ought to do specific use in applications. Because somebody might have an expertise that would be good on a river.
and so that termination clause allows, when we receive an application here at city staff, we'll be turning those to the city council as soon as we get them.
I thought like also if they were on, say like they were from out of town or whatever, then they could be an advisor.
Friend, is that what you're talking about?
An
Yeah,
advisor, but
I would say like friend sounds like,
It sounds not too seriously as the advisor.
yeah.
The chair though has to, I have one person who comes to my meeting that I have to silence her all the time.
Who's that?
Uh-huh.
My wife.
Oh,
Oh, leave Dorothy
That's not
alone.
nice.
Exactly who you said
You
that.
don't bring it down.
She's on there, she's listening.
okay,
Okay.
so we've given you a lot to think about.
But
Thank you,
overall-
Adrian, for the report.
hey,
It
overall,
was nice.
it's an excellent document. That's following.
I mean, yeah, I have a few notes here and
Oh, yeah.
that helps me and you guys will see that hopefully by the next meeting, you guys will have it.
Good.
I would still like to distribute this to the board, the commissions, especially the historic, since they'll now have new compliance requirements.
That should be
Oh, there was
residents
one
only.
more thing we didn't talk about. You could only be on one commission.
Yes.
or board.
Yeah.
So right now,
I
there's,
saw that.
there's one case
Okay.
in our current members of boards, there's a representative for two different boards.
One person on two boards.
Perhaps we
There's
should,
only one person that's on two.
but
Yeah.
if a person could be chair of two boards, then it's not very good luck, especially if that P and Z item comes into fruition. Just as a general
Well,
rule
a
of thumb,
city
let's just
council
keep it.
member cannot be on
Yeah,
any
it's also,
board. I think
mentioned
that,
in
I
here.
think that, that should be restricted to.
yeah,
Please do one at a time, be a friend.
yeah, you're welcome to attend, just not
Yeah.
influence the policies of other boards. Just
Right.
focus on your one board and be as attentive as you can. All right, well,
So on the, just quick, on the
Yeah.
Parks Advisory stipulations, you may try to include the volunteering
Yeah.
in that?
I'll include that and, I'll highlight it and all the changes made today will be,
Because in the
I'll
past, that
put
was,
some detail in it where you can see what has been updated from what you guys
Okay.
received today. Is there any other questions, concerns?
That's it for me, man.
I've seemed to gather what people are thinking. Awesome. All right, well, Mayor, do you have anything else? If you guys have anything else, just feel free to email me. It might come up, something might stimulated your mind, and always email away or call.
We just need a motion to adjourn.
Well, I just have one last question. Our next meeting is January 5th.
That'll be a P and Z meeting. But let's see.
That's a city council meeting also.
Oh, so I guess we'll have a P and Z and city council meeting at the same time.
With a plan.
Well, same.
January 5th?
Right.
Yeah.
What is that? Hold on, a Thursday, oh, Thursday.
Yeah.
Regular-
I will not be here for that meeting.
Can we have it earlier?
I thought you
Yeah,
said
well,
to do it.
Well,
No,
we're
because
gonna try.
6:30, but we usually do it at 6:30, but like at 5?
Oh, well, of course, I'm.
From the,
We got in so much trouble.
yeah, we
last time
we've
tried
gotten
to
in
do
trouble
it.
for that now.
Okay.
We're gonna try this
We'll just do it at 6.
I mean, we could do it, start at 6.
Yeah, 6 will be good.
And
6.
But then people
So
are
you're not
gonna
working
get.
then?
No, I get off, by the time I get off of work, I get off of work at 5.
Oh, okay.
So like that day, if we have it, I could leave a little bit early and be here by 5 or be here, at 6 without a problem. But I'm just saying like a little bit early, a little bit early.
clarify, I will not be here, but I'll be on Zoom.
Okay.
Okay?
Our city attorney will be.
I make a motion to adjourn at 9:35. I second Jen.
All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor?